What is up, our fellow Monarch Monstars? It is your boy Trey of the Bat Channel, and we are live once again in a bat cave, hiding from the Titans that are just roaming around in our city. Guys, we have a damn good show for you today. Hopefully, as I've seen, that you guys got your tinfoil caps on as we diving in deep into the season finale of Apple TV's Monarch Legacy of Monsters, Episode 10, Beyond Logic. So, share the stream. You already know what to do. Get all of your Monarch Monstars into the chat right now because we have some special guests, some familiar, some we've never seen before. It's just going to be a wild time talking about this crazy epic finale of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get through all the pleasantries real quick. You guys already know what we do as we get ready for today's show. Guys, follow us on our social media pages like TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, if you're on there too, at @_Bat Channel. It's just a wonderful way to, get to know us, whether it's YouTube content or just some of the other things that we're passionate about. We do a lot of fun things on our Instagram stories, and it's also a good way to kind of just DM us, let us know what's going on in your life, or something cool that you saw on social media that you're like, dude, why are you not talking about this? Or there's this rumor going around about Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2. Do it. DM us. We're happy to find out what's going on and look into it. Or if you're still over on Facebook, at Holy Bat Channel, go ahead and follow us there. And guys, it helps us out so much. When you smash that like, you share this video, you subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Help us get to 3,000 subs and then on to 10K, because we know when we get to 10K, we'll finally be able to do some more than charity streams that, we like to raise a lot of money for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Feeding America, all that fun stuff that this channel is really passionate about. So guys, you know what to do. You already know. Let's go ahead and talk about some of upcoming streams that we got going on. As you already know, we had our breakdowns that you guys can go through all of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, all the way from episode 1 to episode 9 right now after this stream. If you need to catch up, if you want to dive in a little deeper into the rabbit hole of Axis Mundi, you can do that through our stream. We have a whole Godzilla playlist to go through. And for our next upcoming show, you'll be able to set your reminders after this stream for our full-on season overview. As you know, Super Bro, Corey, and I, after we watch an entire season, we like to look back at our scores that we've given each episode and to see if the entire story arc maybe made some of those episodes better or worse, or just happy with where we're at. It's a cool episode to where we tell you, was it worth it? Was it worth 10 episodes? Where can they improve? Where do they just need to let go some of those storylines? And some predictions for season 2, because we definitely got some. It's not fully greenlit yet, but I have a feeling it will be, because it's been hopping on social media like crazy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring out the best co-host I could ever ask for. Ladies and gentlemen, Super Bro Corey. How you doing, big fella?
Yo, how we doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great.
I'm doing fantastic as well, man. I'm super excited for the show today. We have a lot of people coming in today, and some a new one as well. So I'm excited, man. I'm super excited. It's going to be a damn good show, like we say.
It's going to be a very damn good show, Corey. So let's go ahead and bring on some of our Monarch Monstars panel people. You've seen him here before. He shows up day in and day out. Our boy, Lord Koj. How's it going, my man?
Hey, what's up, guys? Happy to be here.
Koj. Good to see you, brother. Corey, we also have our good friend Josh, who's been hanging out with us. Especially, Josh has called quite a few theories.
Hey,
he helped open our eyes to some crazy things going on through Monarch. It's great seeing you, Josh. And let's go ahead and bring in. It's been a while since we've seen him, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm so glad he's back. You know him as the Orcord leader himself, Orc and Beans. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah.
Hello. Hi. How's it going?
Hey.
How you doing, Orc? It's been too long, my dear friend.
So glad that I was able to make it for this final episode, the ending of season 1. I am glad to be here talking to all of you fine people and our new guest.
You said it yourself, my man. Our new guest, guys. I am so happy to finally have him on. our show. I've been following him on Instagram before I was even the Bat Channel. I just have always enjoyed his content. You probably know him by a different name. He goes by Kaiju Junkie, but he is our boy Nick. How's it going, Nick? How you doing, my man?
What's going on, guys? Happy to be here.
Yeah, Kaiju. Well, see, I mean, he's stuck saying Kaiju Junkie because that's how I know you, and now I finally know you as Nick.
You can call me whatever you want. I have no preference.
We'll just go with it pretty much. Nick, this is your first time on our channel. Can you give people an idea who maybe aren't involved into the Godzilla community and the MonsterVerse and all that's going on? Tell us a little bit about your Instagram posts and your pages.
Yeah, all right. So I am Kaiju Junkie. I'm an East Coast-based content creator. I also do some writing and contributions for a little website called Kaiju United. We have our own little podcast there, Kaiju United Town Hall. So be sure to go check that out. I also do some panels in real life. You know, I've done some at G-Fest, hoping to do more. Yeah, I don't know. There's really not that much else to say.
Well, we're so glad to have you here, dude. It's to me, it's a true honor. I just really love everything you do on Instagram for the community and keeping us all aware of what's going on. And just happy to have you here, man. And I know it's just going to be a fun show, bringing in all the peeps for the big finale, because this is what it is, man. A show that we've been really day in and day out been doing for the last couple of months, and now we're at the end here. So crazy moment indeed. Just to kind of go around, I know we're going to do a full-on season overview so far, but from our show from now on, we'll do like Josh first, Orc and Beans, Kaiju Junkie, Koj, Super Bro, and then I will speak. But Josh, what was your initial thoughts going into episode 10? What were you hoping to see? And you get it? Like, were you satisfied with this ending?
Yes, very satisfied. Thanks to everyone on the panel. Thanks for everyone in the chat. Thanks for having me, guys. It's an honor to be part of the Monarch Monstars. This has been such a journey, and I was in the last episode, the penultimate episode. So we talked about, some of the things that we wanted to happen in a roundabout way. I kind of see things leading up to what I said I wanted to happen. So yeah, I was just kind of like, all right. And very similar to, I watched y'all's watch party after the fact, and thank y'all for doing the watch parties, because those reactions that y'all's faces, Koj, Corey, and Trey, like your faces just always give me so much life when I'm watching the replay with the watch alongs. But that was my reaction. And as somebody like Corey, who's Team Kong,
Let's go.
I was like, let's go.
That was a special cameo for sure. That caught us off by, we did not expect that.
Nope.
Orc and Beans, you're now. God, has it been since episode 1 since we last had you?
I think I only did episode 1 and now this one. Yeah.
Cool. So this is perfect. Kind of full circle a little bit from the beginning to the end, my man. Tell us your overall thoughts.
No, I loved it. I obviously loved the season. I was glad, I thought they did a very good job with what they, it kind of made me, I know I've watched a couple of your guys' reviews. You guys didn't like Kate and stuff like that. I really liked her. In the beginning, I didn't really care so much about the people, and now I do. I really wanted to just see more Godzilla, but now I want to see more of the story of the characters that we have grown to love. I was a little disappointed that they had to reach out to a B-list tier Titan and bring Kong out.
Savage. Holy
So I guess it was a cheap pop, I felt like. But no, it was cool to see Kong. And maybe we'll get to see more of him in season 2. And I think season 2 will be a nice bridge into, because now we're getting close to what King of the Monsters is the 2017 movie, right?
2019 technically it takes place.
So we're getting close to that, and so it might be a nice bridge into that movie. But no, I'm really excited. I'm excited for the future of the MonsterVerse. I'm curious to see if they're going to do more of that technology, because it looks like, we'll talk about it, but it looks like they actually picked their pod out of the, while they were traveling through to bring them right to their spot that they needed them to be. So it'll be curious if they're going to start pulling Titans out to where they want them to be. And maybe that's how they capture some and stuff. So it'll be really interesting to see what the future holds for this show. So I'm really excited.
Okay, that's some interesting thoughts. I like that. I dig that. Nick, my man, general thoughts about episode 10 leading up to it.
I liked it. Overall it was a good episode. So was episode 9, especially after both those episodes were just such a breath of fresh air. After 6, 7, and 8 were just nothing but boring ass filler, and nothing really exciting happened. I liked the Kong cameo, don't get me wrong, but I do think it was a little shoehorned in and really just fan service. They just put it in just to get us all pointing at the screen like Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Exactly. Exactly.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it really sort of left me with more questions. Like, how the hell did Apex get on Skull Island? Why the hell is Apex on Skull Island? And as far as my hopes for a season 2, I mean, I'm kind of on the fence. I guess I would love to see season 2, but with the way that this show has just sort of been retconning things and sort of being very all over the place with the MonsterVerse's canon and continuity and lore, I kind of wouldn't want to see a season 2, because they just might bring that further, and just because even before Monarch, the whole lore and world building was already a mess, and the show did a good job at filling in some holes in the beginning, but then towards the end, they did a 180 and just said, oh hey, we're adding some more elements. There is actually an in between the Hollow Earth and the surface level Earth. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think episode 10 wrapped everything up nicely as best as it could. Kind of indifferent for a season 2. If they green light one, great. If they don't, I mean, that's fine too. Just less of an opportunity for the lore to get messed up more than it already is. Because my biggest fear is, I was talking to a friend about this last night. My biggest fear is that the MonsterVerse is going to become like the Michael Bay Transformers movies, where each installment retcons everything and just adds a million different things. Like, I think I didn't even see most of the Bay 4 movies, but I think in the last night they revealed that Bumblebee was in World War II or something.
Yeah.
That whole continuity was just a complete mess, and I think that the MonsterVerse is on the path to becoming that, and I really hope it doesn't.
I definitely hear you there, because that was I think it was Gianmarco, one of our viewers, kept correcting me, is like, dude, they've already decanonized Godzilla Awakens, like you can't focus on that as the history. And I was like, what? It's the comics, like it's the MonsterVerse, like they even do it in Aftershock. Like maybe that's why Godzilla has these dorsal fins that you see when he burst out of the the desert. Like what is happening here? I definitely can see where like people who have invested in the lore that they've done with the MonsterVerse, with the comics, with the the art books and stuff like that, like I have, it can be a bit frustrating to like where you're like, well, where are they going with this? Like, is any of it canon? Are they just wasting our time? I would really hope they don't do the Michael Bay thing, because I think the Michael Bay Transformers thing is they just never really wanted to full on say they rebooted the franchise, even though that's pretty much what they did. So
it's like every start of that movie has been, hey, surprise, the Transformers have been on Earth this whole time. Hey, surprise, they've been here even sooner. Hey, surprise, Bumblebee has crash landed on Earth long before the first movie. But I mean, yeah, you talk about the canon of like the comics and the novels. I mean, me personally, I consider a lot of that like loose canon. Like, if you want to consider it canon, go for it. But me personally, I don't really consider a lot of it canon. I mean, I've only read the 2 prequel graphic novels to GVK. Godzilla, what was it, Dominion?
Yeah, it's Kingdom Kong and
yeah, and
Godzilla Dominion.
Kingdom Kong. Oh, you have my copy is right over within arm's reach too.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I read those, and I can't remember if I read Awakening. It's been so long, but I really don't consider a lot of the comics canon because it's sometimes even in that situation, comics and graphic novels can be a little all over the place with the lore. I like to stick with just what I'm told in movies and TV shows.
Yeah,
and try to piece things together. But I mean, I've spoken for long enough. So
no, you brought up some very good points, and I think the great thing about this, Nick, is just listening to you talk about your general thoughts over all with the show and like season 2. You definitely are going to have a different opinion that I think a lot of us haven't really had on the show before, because it seems like for the most part, our audience, and just based off what I've been seeing on our social media polls, a lot of people seem to be like really enjoying it, want a season 2. I think we have almost about 150 votes on our season 2. Do you want it? Yes or no? And I think right now it's like at 92%. So, it will be good to have someone who has a little bit harsher criticisms to kind of be like, oh yeah, you bring up great points there. Let's go into that and see if it affects the way we think about the show or not. And then all in all, as you have probably seen on our show, we like when people have different opinions from us, because it helps us either appreciate more about what we do like, or kind of look at something and go, oh, well, you know what? Like, you're absolutely right about that. I didn't think about that. So dude, go all out whenever we have these questions. But Koj, my man, your general thoughts leading up into episode 10.
Leading up until episode 10, and then after, or
sure, yeah, if you want to, yeah, just you can give us your overall thoughts of.
No, I liked it. I felt everything was good because I'm coming from just seeing Godzilla 2014 and King of the Monsters. I'm with the Horde here. I'm not really a Kong fan, you know that. No hate. I like bananas too, but it's just I've always been Godzilla, and this is his like area, So I've gotten detailed about that. But yeah, I do feel Kong was shoehorned, but I didn't mind it because of the journey the story has been going through and telling the characters. And if we do a season 2, I hope it takes a story to another level, because I feel like we are done with introductory. Like, we do any more character introductory thing, I'm rage quitting season 2. But I think it's really good to keep up with the stories that they're, because it did act as a sequel to the first one. And if it's going along the movies that came out, maybe they'll fill in the gaps, because unfortunately I did not read the expanded canon by the comics. But as Kaiju Junkie was saying, with just sticking to the movies, I think it's usually good to stick to the main medium of a continuous story, and anything extra, unless it's really tied by a creator or director of the thing, then I would consider it loose canon too. But then also I didn't have that luxury of having that knowledge beforehand going in. So a lot of this was new, and going from that aspect, I felt it did a good job as expanding and introducing a new story to go along with this MONSTERVERSE. So I was very happy and excited. I'm excited to go in more detail in a bit.
Nice. All right. Super Bro, being the big Kong fan, you got your big gigantic cameo at the end. What's overall thoughts leading up in episode 10?
Yeah, man. I thought episode 10 was fantastic in my opinion. I loved it. I come from a different standpoint than a lot of the panel and everything like that too. I wasn't really a big Godzilla fan or kaiju fan. It wasn't until as of late where, yeah, I know, right? Like, so it gets crazy, Nick. It's like Trey used to watch it all the time as kids, and I would just laugh at him walking by. Like I wasn't feeling it. And I especially wasn't feeling the Japanese versions and the dub stuff and everything like that. And it's not until really this like I watched the MonsterVerse with him, and I was like, okay, this is getting more cool, Godzilla was okay,
Court had a
then-
little too much fun with the Godzilla versus Kong. He was definitely
I
ramping
love
that up and being
Godzilla
like,
versus
"Oh, Team
Kong, yeah,
Kong versus me."
exactly. That's when I started to go nuts. I was like, when Godzilla King of the Monsters came out, I was like, well, this is actually pretty dope. And then when they, we were getting to Godzilla vs. Kong, I was like, I was all in then. And then now leading up to Monarch Monsters and more specifically Godzilla -1, like I watched Godzilla -1, fell in love with that. And, the show has definitely got me more into the MonsterVerse and more specifically has made me more of a kaiju fan. So I've noticed, and today was the first day that I actually started researching some additional themes. Like it seemed to me like most of the people who are like long-term Godzilla fans, kaiju fans, they may have a few more complaints about Monarch Legacy of Monsters, where us newer fans were like, oh, this is a fun show. This is cool. And the one thing that I have, from what I've seen and what I've really appreciated, was the Godzilla community is definitely super welcoming of new fans and everything like that, and people who are wanting to get into the world of Godzilla, even outside of the MonsterVerse and everything like that as well. So it's one thing that I've appreciated, and I'm looking forward to continue to dive deeper in this kaiju crazy world we live in.
Godzilla brings people together.
Exactly.
It does. It certainly does. And I think where some of that comes from, not to go like on a huge tangent, is just being a kid, watching all the Godzilla films. Dad would tell me about creature features that he used to watch, and that's how I got into it. To me, it was like, it was not exactly considered a cool thing to be a Godzilla fan. Thanks to Corey, thanks to friends at school who believed that. Like, I think every kid was like, how cool is it to destroy a city? Yeah, that's the fun aspect. But I think if you told someone like, yeah, I watch Godzilla movies, I think some people kind of gave you the weird look back in school. At least for me, I kind of got the weird look of like, Godzilla, like the Japanese films. Like, yes, I watched the ones where Godzilla's dancing, the Showa era where he's floating around, flying. Yes, I've done all of those movies. But nowadays, because Godzilla has always kind of stuck around in pop culture, and the MonsterVerse has really opened it up again to the general audience, and you're seeing a lot of people talking about it, excited, interested in what they're going to do next with the MonsterVerse. It's kind of the cool moment where some of those OG fans are kind of looking at it and going like, oh, like this is awesome. Finally, like we're in the cool club, even though we the originals. So I'm glad Corey is especially feeling welcomed, anyone who is a new Godzilla fan, because there's so much to unpack, whether you like the silly Godzilla, the more serious tone like -1 in the original Gojira 1954. There's just a lot to get from it. So
Godzilla -1 was my favorite movie last year.
Well, and it's
Mine
showing
too.
that it's growing. The Godzilla fan base is growing. I think I saw a thing that Godzilla -1 is now the second highest grossing Japanese film in the US.
Just
Like-
behind Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
That's insane to think that a Godzilla movie now holds that title. And
An
so,
authentic one, but
yeah,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
good. And so,
Yeah.
it's growing, and I think people are going to start to see like, wow, Godzilla -1 was good, and then they're going to look up and see that there's this gigantic catalog of Godzilla movies that, yeah, some are silly, but some are serious, and Godzilla movies kind of give you a little bit of taste of everything, with deep meanings and characters and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that with the success of -1 and I feel like the success of this show, that we're going to get a lot of people that are going to go back and watch those old movies.
can I add on to that?
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
I've been saying ever since Godzilla -1 has been breaking its way into the mainstream as far as popularity and doing fucking numbers at the box office, it's nothing but good news for the Godzilla fandom, because the G-Fest is going to grow by proxy because of it. And I've heard people say they've seen it when Godzilla 2014 came out. 2014 was released, and then the next year when people went to G-Fest, the attendance doubled. And recently they had to move to a bigger venue. I think it was 2022 when they came back from COVID. They had to move to a bigger venue, and I can only hope that because of the success of -1, people are going to be looking more into the character, becoming more fans, and just discovering, hey, there's this awesome convention that happens every year. I hope that they will be able to grow out of that big hotel space they have to rely on, and they can move into the convention center that's right across the street. Move into a proper venue. It's a big center, and probably don't have to use it all. Maybe like half or 3/4, maybe. But it's good news all around that more people are getting into Godzilla and being introduced to Godzilla in such a way.
Absolutely. It just keeps him in that pulp culture icon that he is back then and will continue to be. He's opening the doors to a new generation of Godzilla fans. And like Orc said earlier, there's a version of Godzilla that I think anyone can like, whether you like the silly, the lighthearted, the hero Godzilla, or the terrifying, monstrous, symbol of the nuclear bomb, that he is. And there's just something for everybody. And I think that's what's really cool about it. And now him hitting the live action TV series, I think for the first time. I can't think if there ever was a live action TV series before that. I don't think there was.
I think there's a few in Japan.
Was there?
Not like to the extent of the movies, but those silly ones like Goziban. That's animated, I think. Godzilla Island. What's the one where they're literally just shaking action figures in front of the camera and then they cut to like humans? Godzilla Island, I think.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, they do have that. I did.
But I think what you mean is like to this scale, like something that takes itself seriously, like an actual piece of Godzilla media
content and lore kind of building upon it rather than like a little toy merch promotion kind of thing going on. But guys, are you ready to kind of dive into episode 10 Beyond Logic and kind of let's break this show apart in the finale? Because there was definitely some parts where maybe not the most important thing to happen in the episode, but you can tell they're kind of building to something further if Apple TV and Legendary green lights a season 2 if they do go that route. But there were some really, I feel like, some full circle moments, some very emotional moments, things that were definitely anticipated, that we were kind of waiting to see how they would react and handle those certain situations. And for me, they hit the nail, spot on for me on some of those really heavy moments that I was kind of waiting for. And then somewhere I was kind of like, well, I don't know if it's satisfying, but in a way that's kind of life. So maybe they did that on purpose. But with this episode being called Beyond Logic, which is from their famous quote, "Beyond logic lies truth." And to break this episode up a little bit, I kind of, I like to keep it with certain character storylines that are going on. I felt like the most important one was Keiko Shaw, basically the Axis Mundi team versus what was going on in the surface world with Hiroshi and Kentaro. So let's start with Hiroshi and Kentaro. We know they kind of left on a bit of a tense situation with each other where Kentaro is obviously mad about his dad. His dad has a second family. He never told him about Kate and he abandoned them in the desert. So, they're not on the best of terms, even though we kind of get the sense that Kentaro, during the happy moments of their relationship, before all the post G-Day stuff, that he probably looked up to his dad quite a bit because his dad was the one that really encouraged him to do art. What was your guys's? The one thing I was kind of anticipating, wanting to hear a little bit more about, was Hiroshi's choice to have a second family. And he kind of just says to him, really, this is what you want to talk about? You don't want to help me save the world and all these G-Day events that could happen? Like, you want to talk about this drama, this minuscule drama between our families? And he basically just says, I fell in love with your mom. And if that never happened, you wouldn't be here. So kind of deal with it. Was that a satisfying answer to what Hiroshi was going through? And, Kentaro basically having to be like, all right, I guess that's the end of it. Because of how we have everyone on the panel now, let's do Kaiju.
Is this how you wanted it lined up? I was trying to.
If that works for you, Corey, like.
Yep.
I was looking at Josh and going counterclockwise.
Oh,
Yeah.
We can do it that way. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah. So I talked about this on one of our shows about how I come from a psychology perspective, and I just kind of see these characters as people, not necessarily good or bad. They just are who they are. So that scene, I'm glad you brought this up, Corey, because I rewatched it today. That scene, and for me, I mentioned this. Like I had a feeling that Hiroshi, subconsciously, this whole story kind of kicked off because he did what he did, right? And now we kind of know, seeing that flashback in the penultimate episode of Project Hourglass, with him having that talk with Shaw and Bill about, okay, you're coming back, hold on to this, I'm coming back. And as a little boy, that never happened, Bill was there, but then they kind of had a broken relationship. And then obviously we saw John Goodman, at the beginning. And so it kind of comes full circle when we see him watching that. But I honestly didn't expect him to answer that question to Kentaro, because I mentioned, like, in my opinion, sometimes when you go through trauma, hurt people inadvertently sometimes hurt people. And I think in a weird way, when you live in a world of monsters, I think in a way the decision for him to have a double life was subconsciously a way for him to kind of defend that little boy from ever being abandoned. Your family in San Francisco, hey, they might end up dead, so go to Tokyo, have a little backup family. And is it right? No, but he did. I think he was being honest that he fell in love with Emiko. And shout out to my favorite character for also coming back. So of course, that's going to give this a little bump in my opinion, because Emiko, my favorite character to this day. I loved her telling him off.
She has definitely been a small highlight of this show. Just her strength, but most importantly, her nurturing nature of of being a mother towards Kentaro. And yeah, you brought up some very great points, Josh. I really dig that, man. Orc, your thoughts about Hiroshi's answers about why he did what he did?
Yeah, I mean, it's unsatisfying for us, the fans, because we want those answers, but it makes sense for him to not give it, because he says, like, even I'm trying to figure out why I had this second family. And then he even kind of like tries to flip it. And so I think it was one of those things where he was just so ashamed of what he's done and who he's hurt that he was trying to just deflect it, and he didn't want to give that answer. And he may not even have that answer for himself. And so I think he was just kind of in that fight or flight, and he was kind of flying and trying to just get away. And he kept trying to redirect the conversation into, the world's gonna die. I don't want to talk about how I'm shitty father, or my feelings and stuff like that, and that I think my daughter's dead. But he was just he's going through so much. But I think it lies with the fact that he is ashamed of what he has done, and he doesn't want to face that yet. So he's just going to try to redirect the conversation so he doesn't have to give that answer, which sucks for us, but it makes sense. It's just him being defensive.
Wow. Yeah, just like you said, I think shame plays a big part of it. And to kind of go between you and Josh of connecting the dots a little bit, you're absolutely right that the trauma, his sense of abandonment, has kind of, in a way, it was perfect for him to kind of watch that old clip of his father, Bill Randa, telling him, like, hey, you might not be too messed up about me dying, but like, hopefully I can leave you something, a legacy. And in a way, he just redid what he didn't want to do in the first place, which was the feeling of abandonment. He kind of created this double identity and forgot his kids, like he kind of felt about Bill Randa like forgetting him and being obsessed over his work about the Hollow Earth, the portals, and forgetting his family in the midst of all that. The obsession took over, and it happened exactly to him. Kaiju Junkie, Nick, my man, your thoughts?
So you're pretty much saying that he became literally his father's son.
Yes.
Yeah. Someone in the chat said Father of the Year, and honestly, I'm not sure how big you guys are on anime, and you know much about like the anime dad trope, how every father in anime is always a shitty dad. But I got that energy from him, and I watched the episode twice yesterday, and I really didn't get all of the psychological and psychology elements that you guys were talking about. And now hearing you guys say that, it really made me take a step back and be like, oh wow, that's like really interesting how that contributes to it. I just I don't know, because like that, it really didn't. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It really didn't occur to me that he may have been like a shitty person because of all of these like psychological traumas and all that. And I think maybe that's because we literally were introduced to him at the end of the series. You know, like there really wasn't a lot of time to sort of flesh out his character and like sort of really dive into why he does what he does. It really was just all sort of dumped on us really quickly in the first episode. Yeah, so I don't know what else to say about it, but yeah, it's I really didn't consider all these like psychological elements that could be applied to his motives. And although I did just like sort of shake my head when he was just avoiding, you know, the explanation to Kentaro that he was unjustifiably, I mean, understandably owed.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's like the part that I struggled with too. You know, it's a part of the fun of these deep dives of looking at it from the psychological standpoint, which our boy Josh is fantastic at over here. But to also kind of
respect,
it's a very realistic show, right? Like we could kind of see in that moment, he's embarrassed. It's a dog between his tail. Like his son is questioning him on. Rightfully, he understands is a huge mistake that he has made, but to kind of turn it around in a way where it's kind of the trauma kicking back in, but we often don't try to face our own demons, and it was kind of negating it, you know, trying to ignore the truth of his pain deep down, losing his mom, losing his biological father, losing Bill, losing his uncle at one point. Right. And I think it just comes down to him like shaking it off as like, what can he say in that moment? I think realistically, we could probably see that situation happening exactly the way he did it, where he doesn't really want to answer for his sins.
Right.
And isn't ready to be honest, you know, because he's obsessed with his work, just like his father, Bill Randa, was. So
I think that really could have. Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, go right ahead.
Yeah, I think like that's something that really could have been explored more in like had they not had episodes like 6, 8, 7, and 8 just be nothing but garbage filler. Because you know had they maybe sort of fleshed out his character more, and I feel like if they did that by episode 10. People would have hated him a lot less. I mean, still would have hated him regardless, because you know, shitty father and just becoming an even shittier version of his dad. But I think it would have made him a little more likable, because you know I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff in TV shows. It's a big reason why I like Neon Genesis Evangelion, because that show touches on a lot of you know, mental health issues, you know, some, and it makes the show a bit more relatable. You know, we might not be fighting giant monsters in these giant robots, but I understand where, you know, Shinji or Misato or whatever is coming from in whatever issue they have. And, you know, it sort of makes you feel more attached to the characters, and it could have just fixed a big problem that Monarch has as a whole. Just like a lot of these characters you just really don't care about. You know, like Kate, she just has mood swings every episode. Like one episode she could hate somebody, and then the next episode she's like, "Oh, you're my best friend in the whole world. I'll do anything for you." May and Kentaro, I just couldn't really get invested in. You know, the only characters that I even sort of liked in the show was the 1950s timeline, you know, because, you know, and even then, like, they weren't the best written characters, but the story they had to work with made them much more bearable than Kate, Kentaro, and May. Yeah, exactly. We need more backstory, and I think it was Donkey Kong, King Kong. Yeah, he should have had a bigger role. Like, it just boils down to Hiroshi should have had a bigger role, you know. Because he just showed up at the end, and they pretty much speed ran his backstory and speed ran his motives of why he is the way he is, and you know that I think was a weak point for the show.
I completely agree with you. I think in terms of, and this was actually going to be a point in our season overview that I was going to talk about next week is this simple thing that I think some of the focus that they did have in this show wasn't the right focus in terms of character development. If you've watched throughout all of our breakdowns, we really talked about how the legacy cast was what was really kind of, we called the legacy cast the 50s cast because it was the thing that was like really kind of holding us to this show, like of why it was like exciting. And honestly, I felt like some of the better storytelling, but when we got to our post G-Day crew with Kate and May, we had a lot of issues, especially with how some of their character arcs went about. But Josh had some very interesting psychological breakdowns of some of that, because it all goes back to the side of trauma and the abandonment of how Kate never really had that relationship with her father the way Kentaro did. And obviously May is going through some weird stuff with her crime history and stuff like that, but
as well as Josh said, the consistent mirroring back and forth
the consistent mirroring of the drama between the 50s, and but it's definitely something that I think was missed, like you said, Nick. But yeah, go ahead.
Just imagine, like, they did such a great. I feel like there was a lot of episodes where they did a great job of flashing back to legacy cast, flashing back to post G-Day cast, and such like that. But how much could have been different if I know they were trying to keep some of the suspense alive with trying to find his father, or find their father, find Hiroshi and everything like that. But once we knew Hiroshi was alive, it would have been cool if the next episode would have been a little bit more of like, what's Hiroshi been doing this entire time? Why is he running around? To just fill in a little bit more of what his mission is. So when we see him now right at the end, you know, we're just, you know, you're a shitty father, and I'm going to tell you how it is now, you know, lay into him. So it would have done a little bit more respect to his character and what's needed overall, because clearly Hiroshi has gone through numerous traumas in his life, things that have really messed him up. They call it a curse, for God's sake. So, you know, it's understandable what he's done in an understandable circumstance, if that makes sense. Like, he shouldn't have two families. That's horrible what he's did, but he's also cursed and completely messed up with you know, how things have gone in his life, you know. So in some ways he didn't really have a family to teach him the morals of and what it is to have a family. The only thing he knows is work. You know, he went, you know, right after his, you know, his dad, Bill Randa, was going, you know, crazy after Shaw's disappearance and, you know, Keiko's disappearance. So he wasn't, you know, there anymore. So really he, you know, learned about, you know, just doing the job, doing work, and just focusing obsessively on Monarch.
It's like I said, I wish they explored that more in the show. You know, Absolutely. He had such a potential to be a great character. Like I said, you know, he would have been a character we ultimately would have hated, but we could have looked at a more like psychological and psychology standpoint and say, like, you know, he is kind of a dick, but, you know, it makes sense. Like, it would have, given it. I can't speak tonight. They should have given him like more time for character development and for him to like explain himself. I'm sure they probably did it in the time jump by the end of the episode, but like, how come we can't see that?
Mm.
Yeah, they definitely left some of the I feel like the more important questions or the important answers that we needed. They left to be desired, and maybe it's something they're saving for us. But in terms of the overall season 1 arc of Hiroshi, especially, he was kind of they missed the target with him a little bit. Koj, what was your thoughts about Hiroshi and not quite giving the answer that Kintaro needed? Or
I thought it was realistic and acceptable. It's very honest from him because essentially any kind of like broken relationship or any kind of broken stuff that requires repair, which I believe everything can be repaired between people and groups of people. It's just that sometimes for whatever reason, the shame to not go back and do the right thing or repair or fix things is based on other stuff like either shame, ego, stress, whatever. You can fill in the blank. But the fact is that some things are left undone, like neglect, abandonment, and all that stuff, or just not trying to solve it. And maybe for Hiroshi, he needs to solve the biggest problem because maybe he has a problem where he can't solve things or doesn't. So if he can solve one big one, then at least he's solved one major problem. And maybe then he can figure out how to fix the rest of his life. Because when time goes on, people don't communicate or work on stuff. There's a lot of avoidance. Sometimes they just don't know how to fix a problem between people, and they don't have the tools. So they go through other things, either it was all waste, or I'll slam to this person, or I'll just ignore this person, or a bunch of avoidance just to not fix it. So I think his answer was, at his point in time and what he's been through, was the most honest answer he could give. And if anything, honesty is the best thing, no matter how imperfect it is. And they'll have to go through it. But yeah, I do agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, because Hiroshi was in the freaking intro. We saw a lot of his family pictures. I think if we got rid of or toned down one episode with the post G-Day crew or something, some backstory, maybe when they were in San Francisco, I forget. But maybe if we had an episode or a section of the story where we followed him when he was running away from everybody after he found Godzilla and do some flashback. I think we needed some stuff with what he was going through, because I feel definitely, especially after hearing you guys, we were definitely robbed on some Hiroshi backstory. And if they do season 2, I hope they go with that or fill in what they didn't do if it's necessary. I don't know. But I think it was honest, and that's the best he could do. It's just a lot of problems that he probably hasn't revisited in a long time. Maybe that's why he was away. He couldn't do it. He didn't have the strength, courage, or humility, whatever it is. We're not perfect. We just try. Maybe this is his best way of trying.
Interesting. I mean, Coach, I always like how you try to hold on hope with some of these characters. Some of, it's like that movie that I showed Corey the other day, Spirited, with Ryan Reynolds. Am I irredeemable? But it's very interesting. I liked that deep and honest, like you said, it was, I think, the most honest answer he probably could give. See you later, Crash. Have a good one at work, buddy. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you back again. Corey, did you have anything more you wanted to add to your?
I will. Yeah. The only thing that I was kind of thinking after hearing everybody talk about it too is that is becoming a little bit of a disappointment for me too, because if you think about it, we knew Shaw inside and out. We saw young Shaw and old Shaw. So Shaw immediately became a lot of our favorite characters for a lot of people. Who was also part of the Legacy cast and the post G-Day cast? Hiroshi. And, we saw young Hiroshi and everything like that. So they should have gave him a little bit more respect. We should have known a little bit more about him, because he played a huge role in all of this for Shaw and everything that was going on. So yes, I that was definitely a myth, and that's something I think more we can talk about in the overall series show. But Thank you so much, Red Hood Outlaw. He said, remember to hit that like and subscribe. Corey, you know what to do. You know it, buddy. Here, this one's for you.
Hell yeah. I love that.
Oh my God, I love that so much. It's so great. Yeah, man. And I think a lot of people felt like Hiroshi's character was something left to be desired. You know, that he was definitely, in terms of the drama aspect of the show, he added a very interesting element. Like, you can understand, he was very much, they kind of left you to kind of put the pieces together and explain why he is the way he is. And I think while sometimes that does work, it would have been better if we did see a little more about his backstory, why he made some of the decisions that he did, and how he was able to kind of live with himself. You know, it's one thing for him to say, like, don't you understand that I'm trying to figure it out myself of why I did what I did? And that's kind of like, that's great, but why? You know? And we didn't get a lot of answers of what he was searching for. Like, what was he really trying to prove? And also that moment where he takes the blade back from Lee Shaw, you know, because we know he gives it back, and then all of a sudden he has it still.
I would have loved to seen that.
Yeah, that I feel like that would have been a very important scene to kind of
look at what Amazing Webhead said too. He said, I thought it would have been great if we had a flashback to the final battle in 2014, but the Hiroshi POV. You know, we saw Kate's POV there to show why he wanted to find the Hollow Earth as well. So good points all around, everybody.
I agree. But as we see kind of throughout the episode, he's packing up his boxes, he's leaving. You know, he's done Emiko wrong, and I really enjoyed this scene because in a way it almost showed his ignorance a little bit, because I got the sense, I don't know about you guys, I got the sense he still had hope that maybe Emiko would take him back, you know, that yes, he realized he did wrong, but in time their love would kind of rekindle, because he's filing the divorce, you know, with in San Francisco with Kate's mom. But the fact that she kind of goes up to him and says, like, hey, you have a responsibility here. You're not going to be like your father, who obsessed over his work and forgot about his family. It's like, even though he's kind of already done it. She's like, but you're going to have a relationship with our son, Kentaro. You and I, though, we done. I thought, one, she's an amazing character. I thought, like, Emiko, seriously, every scene she was in, how she was able to help Kate in her moment of need, of trauma, having that mother, you know, protection, you know, nature of her, and, you know, also experiencing what Kentaro needed to, you know, when he was upset and needed to rip up the photos. She was really able to help people deal with their trauma. And for the first time, we're now seeing how she is dealing with her trauma, and she's strong in it. And I really appreciated that about her character. Definitely a dark horse character that has become a bit of a fan favorite of ours here. But did anyone have kind of that same kind of thoughts about Hiroshi, that there was some hope that maybe their love would be saved?
He did pull kind of like a, all right, I got my stuff, and starts kicking his feet around, just kind of standing around, be like, but I'm going to have to make a few more trips, and just like was kind of lingering around in the living room, hoping she'd be like, oh, no, stay. And honestly,
if Kentaro's not here, you know.
And honestly, for a moment, even I thought maybe she was going to be like, you know, I don't care what you did to me, yada, yada, like, for the good of the family, maybe you should stick around and stuff like that. But when she literally did a mic drop by dropping that ring into the box, I was like, yeah, you go, girl, stand up for yourself, but also good job standing up for your son, because, you know, she says, like, no matter what you did to me, you still need to have this relationship with your son. And I was like, fuck yeah, like, way to stay strong, but also still be a good mother. And realizing that this relationship needs to stay together for the well-being of her son. So she did a hell of a job.
I agree, or because like exactly what you were saying, like, and Corey or Trey, whoever got the screen grabs, thank you, because I'm looking at every single one of those, and honestly, I don't see a bearded man with long hair. I see a ashamed, sad little boy in every single frame of those
Ooh.
shows. And that's just because of how I'm wired, my education, my experience working in my field. But you're exactly right, Orc. Like, I got that sense that it was a ashamed little boy, kind of like, well, giving sad puppy dog eyes, like, hey, feel bad for me. I didn't have to pack up that much stuff. And, you know, you gave away most of my stuff, but I could still be here and we could have more stuff. And she's like, don't even tell me if you're okay, but you tell your son if you're okay. Boom! Mic drop. Exactly, Orc. So I love the scene. Yumiko, she's a bad bee. I love you.
Oh man, does anyone have anything more to add about Hiroshi and Emiko's final reunion in a way?
I think it was done perfectly. I think Emiko did, I think one of the most realistic things a sane person would do in that in that scenario. You know, if she took him back, I think maybe that is something that should have been explored. You know, because like, oh, why does she still love him? You know, she was the nurse from back in the day, but wait, was she the nurse from the flashback? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe they fell so deeply in love, she's willing to give him a second chance. But honestly, I think if they went that route, it would just been an unnecessary storyline. So I think the fact that she just told him off and said like, "Bitch, bye," I think that was like the best direction they could have gone for that.
Yeah, I struggled with it a little bit because I was kind of hoping she'd take him back, even though she should leave him. And it was probably like from the nurse standpoint in her, she was like, oh, you know, she's a healer, she wants to fix things, you know, and everything like that. So I'm sure that was a hard struggle for her, but she also thought he was dead, and I think it was a little bit easier for her to put the ring in the box. I kind of hope that they do explore that a little bit more if there's a season 2, like of them, the potential of them getting back together, maybe. You know, I see it more as, you know, hopefully, you know, some time has gone by and he's fixed some things, you know, with his mom being back and everything like that. You know, I just like Emiko so much, and I feel so bad for the sad little Hiroshi, you know, like he had such a tough life. So I do still want, so, you know, yeah.
He's a tragic character, right? And you always feel for a tragic character. And I think that's why you were able to understand maybe the mistakes he's done. But deep down, it's, you know, coming from our type of culture, our society, as like Law said, it's a bit of a weird situation, right? Like we haven't experienced something like that, so it's kind of like it's foreign to us. So it's a bit unnatural, and you kind of get the like, this feels icky. It's just wrong, you know. It's just wrong that he had a second family in the first place. But in that tragedy, right? Like even in his mistakes, and I think that's kind of like the only way he was able to, what's the word I'm looking for? It was the only way he was able to cope with the mistake he had made with having the second family, is that like, okay, he did something wrong, but the fact that what he got out of it is love, true, you know, with Emiko, but more importantly, a son, Kentaro, who he obviously cares very much for. And to him, I think is that he looks out of the tragedy, the trauma, and the mistake as, here's this beautiful thing that I still got out of it. And that's what's able to help him kind of ignore the truth of his mistakes and the demon behind it. But Trevor H coming in hot with that $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Trevor H, saying this is a damn good deep dive. I know, right? Like when you think about it, yes, we're kind of messing around with different scenes that happen throughout the episode, but we've really kind of broke into the psychology of it. And I like it because sometimes I feel like that can help you appreciate a show more, or it can make you a little more upset because you're like, dude, you just came up with a great idea and they didn't do that. So what the hell? I don't know. I mean, take it for what it is.
That's why I like deep dives and panels. I mean, I'm definitely going to be walking away from this like with a different perspective on the episode. Like that's, you know, that's why these are awesome.
If I may add to
and
that
understanding.
One. Oh, sorry.
Absolutely, Coach. Go for it, bud.
Oh yeah, sorry. If I may add with what she did, I think she did it, even how she did it wasn't with like, she didn't yell at him, she didn't give him a piece of her mind with like some thing in the kitchen slapping him around or anything.
I'm not mad, I'm disappointed.
Yeah,
The worst thing a parent can say to you.
Yes.
My God, is she the victim of adultery or a parent that just found weed in their kid's sock drawer? When you put it that way.
But again, it's good. I like that she did it with love and said, "Hey, you need to do this." Didn't give him any more. Didn't give him any less of an exchange, and that there are consequences for not doing things or doing the wrong things. And if he's to be this guy to solve what's going on with all these kaijus and going on, then more tools he has about doing the right thing is there. Because then if she did take him back, then he would have lost that experience of fixing what he should have fixed. And he would never have that. By her letting him go and establishing a relationship with his son, he can finally have those tools to rebuild relationships that he should go through. Otherwise, he's going to be that lost boy in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Corey, can you play Trevor H a little something to say thank you for that $5 super chat? Thank you for supporting us as always, brother.
This piano got me dancing right now, buddy.
I got to do that in the club.
God, the production value of this is just spectacular. You guys fucking kill it with these things.
Thank you so much. We try, whenever you guys support us like this, Trevor H, man, it always means the world to us. So anyway, we can say thank you in return. Thank you so much, brother. We really do appreciate it.
I know I've been cursing a lot. You guys, is that fine with you?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah, big brother.
It's just that New York Italian in me. It's like, naturally.
Yeah, don't worry. It's rare when I curse. I just don't fucking do it.
But we do get this really awesome scene with Tim, which we know Tim has always kind of been the outcast at Monarch, right? And even as Shaw has said in earlier episodes, Monarch has lost their way. They are not what they were founded as. And they become very political and also very standstill in getting the job done. It's all about data and data research and not actually taking action in what they're researching. And Tim has said, I've had enough. We're getting these gamma ray beacons. Basically, someone is in Hollow Earth or somewhere between Earth and Hollow Earth. And we need to go find them because this is what it's all about, right? And they could help answer certain questions that might stop some of the issues we have. But the deputy director, she's like, nah, son, stay in your lane, shut down, or you're out. And as we learn, Tim basically tells her to go F herself. So what was your thoughts about that? The fact that Tim finally said he had enough and he's going to Hiroshi and Kentaro to get who's ever there out of there, but he has an ally up his sleeve. He even brings up, is it Duvall? Right? Am I remembering her name right?
Yep.
Monarch Agent Duvall, or
yes.
Former Monarch Agent Duvall. What was your thoughts about Tim finally saying, "Screw you, Monarch. I'm doing this on myself." He kind of took the same route his good friend Hiroshi took. Was that a surprise or expected?
I want to say that just like Emiko is like a dark horse, one of my favorite characters, like Tim is probably leveled up to be the second favorite character. I have loved the evolution of this character. Just that, even that scene at an early episode when he's like, all right, when they're going in to talk to May's family, they're like, all right, everybody, act cool. And then he like trips on the sidewalk. Like, it's serious. And like, he's trying so hard, but like Duvall says, and at a certain point, like when she brings Tim along, like they're trying to size up Shaw. She's like, crazy knows crazy. And so from that moment, I kind of started seeing a track and a parallel to the point where the scene that you're talking about with Tim and Verdugo, is that how you pronounce it? Verdugo?
Verdugo, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I kind of knew that this was Tim leveling up, not entirely as the new Shaw, but Shaw-like. And kind of, I was like, it's already kind of tipped off, like, oh, that's going to lead something to happen later on at the end of the finale. So I loved that Tim literally quotes like Shaw is just like, Shaw was right about y'all. All y'all do is just twiddle your fingers and you don't do anything. So that leads him down a path, yes, to save the individuals in the Axis Mundi, but inadvertently his decision to be like Shaw caused him to turn to something he didn't entirely understand later on. So, but at least as far as evolving as a character, I love that Tim did the right thing. I understood Verdugo's point. Look what I got to deal with. We're talking about the world here. To save 3, and he's like, well, these 3 could save all these people. She's like, I'm not going to take that chance. But I was happy that Tim was like, well, I am, and I'm going for it. So shout out to Tim.
Organ Beans, your thoughts about Tim's decision to leave Monarch and make bed with the enemy in a sense.
Tim comes walking in with his little pimp king, and he was ready to slap some hoes. He was ready for it. He was so pissed. He came in with this fire that I think like he has always kind of had in him. And I feel like with Tim, his biggest thing was just keeping the legacy of, our main 3 of Monarch alive. And he brings up their legacy a lot. And he felt like in that moment that Monarch was not living up to that legacy. And then he hits her with that cold line of, Shaw was right about all this, but he was definitely right about you. And like just crushes her. And you can just see her face, it hit her. It hit her deep. And, it wasn't surprising to hear that Tim decided to leave, because I felt like in that moment, Tim knew that like, yeah, what you think you're doing is right, but you've been wrong so much and you're not doing anything. And you're telling me, someone that has gone through all of this stuff, getting knocked down by Godzilla while I was in a helicopter and all of the stuff that is happening that I've gone through, and you want me to just go sit at a desk? No, fuck that. I'm going to go out into the battlefield, and I'm going to go do something about this. So yeah, he came up and was like, roast. Like he was cooking up everybody. And so
fuck your whole clique.
Seriously, and he wasn't trying to make it this one-on-one conversation. He was making sure everybody knew that what you guys are doing is wrong. What she's making you guys do is wrong. We need to change this whole thing up because we're not doing nothing here. What are we doing? And so he really just, he deep fried him.
Yeah. It was definitely some gangsta moment for Tim, right? Yeah. Nick, what was your thoughts about Tim making the decision to leave Monarch after all these years? He stuck around when Hiroshi was kicked out, and he's seen Monarch do a lot of wrong, but why now? Why is it surprising to you?
I think it really puts into perspective how I don't want to say useless Monarch is, but very apprehensive to take action they are, because I feel like in the MonsterVerse as a whole, Monarch always seems to be getting shut down. In Kong Skull Island, we got to go to Skull Island because Monarch's going to get shut down. In King of the Monsters, it's you guys don't know what you're doing with the monsters. We're going to shut you down. And in here, it really emphasizes that they really don't know what to do. And I understand where Natalia was coming from. How look, we really don't know the situation we're dealing with here. I'm stressed out. My hands are tied. We're trying to figure out the right play to make here. So I understand where she was coming from. I think Tim, it was a really responsible play to take it upon himself to really go and like go to the side of the people who are actually trying to find answers.
Yeah. Interesting. Just like deep diving that into my own thoughts about that while I'm conjuring up that. Koj, what do you think, my man?
I've been growing to appreciate and like Tim. At first, I didn't like him as well because probably because I didn't understand him and see what his main goal was. But as everything went on, it seemed like he was understanding it too. He seems like a guy who's really passionate about his work and contributing to figuring out what's going on and everything. And I think he goes where he's closest to do that. They're like, okay, you're going to be moved to this little corner office. Do your work there. It's like, fine, this is my corner office. I hate it, but this is the closest I could be to get there. And then as the mission goes on, he's like, no, I got to be there so I could be closer to get something done. But also maybe subconsciously he wants to find out more of what's going on so he can do even better. And then as he leveled up, experienced throughout the whole story of what is going on, you see that he naturally kind of gravitates or has to gravitate or decides to gravitate towards whoever closer to the big story, the big picture. And I think we see him have that slow revelation going on out. So in any case, I feel he's like he's probably like the Padawan to Randa without knowing it. And I think he'll surpass him being equal as the story continues on. Because even in the end, they're like, wait, you're with her? The Apex CEO or whoever, director?
Brenda, yeah.
Yeah. And then he's like, it's complicated. So we see that he's already used to compromising with factions of power or something, just so he could be in a position to do the best he can. And I think that's his goal. And I love him for that, because it is hard when, you need to accomplish a goal. And then there's like this company, this faction, this thing that has the abilities to do it, but they won't do it your way. So then he's really trying to do his best with the cards he's dealt with, and he doesn't want to lose any cards to do the best hand coming in the future. So he's very complex, but his heart is in the right place, and I can appreciate that.
He's definitely one of the... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Nick. I think you're onto something, yeah.
He's definitely like one of the few characters I think this show did well, and he had good treatment. Like from the beginning, you can tell that he's just eager, and it's like, in the beginning, it's like, oh, what are his motives? Like, what is he so eager? What is he trying to accomplish? And then by like episode 10, it's like, oh, he just wants to find answers. He wants to do what Monarch is not willing to do.
Yeah, and in a way, right? Like Monarch was founded on the three words of "I don't know," and trying to search for those answers, right? Like as we talked about the Monarch symbol being an hourglass, as part of the symbolism, but Gareth Edwards had always said the idea of it being a collision of myth and science and finding in between their truth. And very much with Tim, he is following that very inspiration and that mission of Monarch. And thank you for giving me some time to kind of mold over what you were saying, Nick, especially is like, yeah, Verdugo, it seems like from the get-go, and Shaw kind of brings it up in an earlier episode where she's ambitious beyond Monarch. You could almost tell that she wants like a seat at the table with the government. And to be a senator. The fact that when Tim told her, like, hey, maybe there's a time we come out of the shadows and, you do this whole speech of, unveiling Monarch to the people. And in a sense, that should have been a job for Serizawa, because he's the one that answers to the government, right? As we've seen in King of the Monsters, he's considered the head of Monarch. And she takes this moment to be, look at me, I'm the head of Monarch. As the deputy director, and we're here to protect you, nothing to worry about, so her ambitions definitely misguided her about what Monarch actually should have been doing, and clearly Tim was fed up with it. And while he's picking in another way a team that is not on their side as well and has their own ambitions. He's doing what he feels is right, and someone who's willing to give him the time and money to hash out some of these questions that he has that he's going to go research. Koji, were you next, or was it Super Bro? Sorry.
Oh, I put in my sense.
Yep, my turn. So I was actually looking forward to this portion because I was, you know me, I love cooking some secret government agency theme. But since you guys all did that, I am going to show them a little bit of grace now. Rewatching this episode, I noticed, and Orchid Beans pointed it out a little bit earlier. Tim, I'll first say Tim did absolutely right. He needed to leave Monarch, but I'm going to show Monarch some grace. And here's what I'm going to say: if we know, when we see Tim, Tim's walking with his pimp cane, as Orchid Bean said. The last time we saw Tim was in crutches with a broken leg. So while what we don't necessarily know until the end of this episode, and rewatching it the second time is when I really kind of had a better understanding of time for this. The amount of time that we're seeing, it seems like it was all last week when this was going down, but in reality, Tim's leg has healed to the point where he's walking around on it, and he's now walking with a cane versus walking in crutches. So clearly, there some time has passed. Maybe we're getting into 2016-ish time frame. So maybe it's been a year since they've gone into the hole. And so by doing that, what do we know that's coming up? Godzilla King of the Monsters 2017, correct, Trey?
2019.
So 2019.
They end up in 2017 when they get back. 2017, 2018, we don't really know.
They end up in 2017, but they're starting to see more and more activity going on. So clearly, they have some stresses and things that they're trying to figure out, work on. You know, things are flashing. Stuff underneath in Access Mundi is going crazy. So I think they're starting to realize, holy cow, holy shit, this is about to get heavy real soon. And her focus now at this point is shifting to, okay, we need to we're going to have another G-Days style event, maybe even larger. And our focus is now kind of moving towards this versus few people that are underneath that may be sending us a message. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Tim, but I don't got time for that because we are having like red lights and leaks all over this freaking map. So that's the only thing I was kind of thinking about during the second viewing of this episode, that clearly some time has passed and we don't necessarily know the exact time frame until after we watch it fully.
Yeah, absolutely. Great takes all around, guys. I'm loving this. Well, of course, Tim teams up with Kentaro and Hiroshi to find out who's sending this gamma beacon in this Axis Mundi level of Hollow Earth, which we'll get back to them soon, or 2 years, a few years later. But let's go ahead and talk about our post, let's call it our Axis Mundi crew at the moment. We knew this was going to be a big moment. The show even starts us right where we left off with episode 9, where Kate meets her grandma, Keiko. And we were wondering how she was going to handle the situation. And we see even Kate's kind of like, I'm not sure exactly how she's going to handle this. And right now we kind of have other things we need to do first. You know, we need to get in a place of safety and then find our group. But she elects not to tell Keiko who she is or that she's with Shaw. In a way, I think she's kind of in shock that she's still alive. But when we finally do get to this moment, and I'm glad they didn't really wait too long to get to it in the episode, but to me, this was one of the best performances in this show. And it's the reunion of Shaw and Keiko. And the fact that Shaw is able to analyze the situation and realize this is going to be insanely tough for her, and that he's going to try to ease her into it, because he not only is he her friend, but he does still really, really love her. And the fact that he's, hiding behind the tree and he's trying to prepare her, give her that moment that she's going to need to basically absorb the situation for what she's in. And it also kind of gives us an idea of the timeline of how this Axis Mundi works in terms of the gravitational discrepancies of time. And she believes she's been down there for 57 days, right? Which Corey and I think even Josh and Koj were kind of saying like her clothes aren't really ripped up. So she hasn't been down there very long, and she doesn't look like her hair's really grown out. So it couldn't have been a year. She was even barely dirty, right? 57 days. And Shaw kind of throws around a different time. I think he says a week or so is his calculation.
Yeah, he first said a couple hours right after, and then now he's saying a few weeks, like you said, Trey.
Yeah. And we'll talk about the calculation of that in a little bit, because that'll help us answer once, especially our Axis Mundi crew gets back to the surface world at a later time. But realizing this, that like, oh my God, time works so much differently. Her being a scientist, she's able to kind of put 2 and 2 together because of the gravitational, kind of similar to what we saw in Interstellar with how time works when you're closer to another moon or planet, and the gravity, changes the time warping of that. So it was good they kind of explained that a little bit further. But this moment when they threw a ton at her. Not only has it been, 57 years later, but it's also, I'm older. That is your grandchild over there. There's so much they throw at her. Even Bill Rand is dead. And I feel like the actress, Mari Yamamoto, just absolutely did a wonderful job kind of taking in all this moment, feeling the gravity and the weight of it, because in a way it's beautiful because her friends found her, she's being rescued, but at the same time there's this horror of all this in a weird, complex way of time has been lost but yet gained. There's so much to it, and I just loved how she performed it. It was so heavy. The music by Leopold Ross was fantastic, and I think just hit the spot. What did the reunion mean to you guys? I mean, obviously during our watch party, Corey and I are tearing up, crying like little babies. But we knew it was a big moment coming. Josh, what did the reunion do for you? Did it hit?
Yeah, I agree with you. This scene was the performance, in my opinion, of the entire series. I was very annoyed. I don't think I was vocal about it on these reviews, but I mentioned, I think on episode maybe one and 2 with Orc and Beans, or maybe 3, but I hated the low cliffhanger, but I also was invested from seeing Kiko fall from the bedbugs, and that look of horror that she sees on not only Bill, but young Shaw's face, right? So that's immediately watching this scene play out what I flashed back to, because that's what something I was invested in. Is we need to find her. We need to, what's going on with her. We all kind of knew that she was probably more than likely alive. So that scene, how it plays out, rewatching it this morning because I watched this again. At first, I was kind of like, okay, I kind of realized that for time's sake, it just kind of like happens, and she accepts it. She breaks down a little bit, but then it makes sense when they are explaining who Kiko is, and we've seen her development, that she's very savvy. She's on it, and so when Shaw is explaining her the time and then what he went through, and the quick reality that he got shot back to was years that went by, right? 20 years. She's like, yeah, gravitational, and then she just kind of starts like, oh my God. She sees Shaw and she kind of recognizes him. But that part when, they're bonding, and Kurt Russell, shout out to him, and they're breaking down, and then she's like, Bill. And he's like, no. And then at that moment, that's when that she did, care, I think, for Shaw, but her heart, and she was invested with Bill, because he didn't come between her and her passion for work. Shaw unfortunately did. So I broke my heart for Shaw, but also for her, what she's going through, and thinking about her son and all that. So shout out to Kurt Russell and Mari for carrying this scene, because it is probably the most powerful scene in the season, in my opinion.
I definitely agree with that, because we know what this moment meant to Shaw. He feels guilt about losing her in that moment, and it's partly why he does Operation Hourglass, right, to see what's really down there. And I think there was always hope, maybe even though he believed her to be dead, you know, there's always hope. And the fact to see her unharmed, looking exactly the way she did, you know, back in 1959, you know, to him, it's a bit of a redemption, I guess you could say, but a relief. But you could also tell that his love for her has never left. And which is why, like, in a way, in terms of performances with Kurt Russell and what Mari was doing, the fact that when he's so happy to see her, right? It's this heartbreaking moment with their reunion, but when he has to tell her that Bill is gone. And you could see how much he knows it. He knows it was coming. He expected it. But in a way, you could also feel a bit of the heartbreak in terms of the love he still has for her, because he knows how much Bill meant to her and how he wished that was him, you know, like he wished he was in that position to have Keiko be his person. And there's so many levels to that particular scene that I think they just handled it with care, and they did it turned out exactly the way it needed to be for this particular episode. Orca, what was your thoughts about this reunion that we've been anticipating from the get-go?
Yeah, I felt like everybody kind of handled the way they should have. Like, I think, you know, it starts even with Kate. Like, she recognizes that it's her grandma right away. And, you know, she realizes that, like, this isn't the time to do that right now. And I think it was more impactful for her to not be the one that tells her, but for it to come from Shaw. And also, she gets distracted by the fact that, like, she needs to find Shaw and May. And just I guess it just shows the type of person Shaw is, to realize that, like, hey, maybe I should hide behind this tree first and talk to her a little bit. And then, yeah, they really just pummeled her with all sorts of, you know, facts and stuff like that. And, you know, it really... The part of the scene that really hit me the most was after they tell her that Kate is her granddaughter. She, like, kind of falls into that tree and slumps down, and it was almost as if, like, in that moment we saw her break. Like, that was the final tipping point. You know, now she knows her husband's dead, her son is all grown up, so much so that he has a daughter. You know, she really just... That's too much for somebody. But because of who she is, I think, you know, she was able to kind of pull herself through it and get through it quickly, because there's still a mission at hand. And I think that's just always been kind of her work ethic, in the sense of, like, yeah, I just found out all of this stuff, and this is a lot, but we still have a mission to do. We got to get home still. And I think also, just with Shaw, you know, he knew that in that moment he was going to have to be the guy. And so, in a sense, like, he has to realize that, like, you know, he's not hurting her, but in a sense he's hurting her. Like, filling her with all of this information is going to do some sort of trauma to her, in a sense, you know, and he realizes that he's going to have to be the one to do this to the woman that he loves.
Yeah.
And, you know, and again, we have to really emphasize the fact that she thinks it's only been 57 days, you know, and, you know, she thought she was being rescued. You know, she thought Kate was part of a rescue team. She thought that they had gotten her signal, and to find out that it was essentially a fluke that they found her. You know, she went as far as to completely transform that beacon into a signal, to find out that it was kind of for nothing, and that, you know, there was a chance that nobody was ever going to find her. And so it was a very impactful... That was, I think, for me, the biggest moment that we needed to see, was just... That was the highest of the high for the season, is that moment of just all of this trauma kind of hitting her, and her just working through it, but then also putting her big girl pants on and being like, well, we got a job to do. Let's get this shit done. let's get my granddaughter home. You know, it just shows the type of person that she is to realize that, like, yeah, I got a lot of shit going on in my head right now, but work's not done.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, your thoughts about the reunion with Keiko and Shaw?
I think it was done really well. Again, one of the things that the show does right. I was half expecting it to just take like the quick way out around the reunion, have her just be like, "Who are you two? What are you talking about? What's going on here?" And then off screen, Shaw just goes, "Hey Kay," and then like she turns around and then he's there, and then he like explains everything. I think the way they did it with Shaw stepping back, like hiding for a moment, just to sort of ease, like try to break the news to her as easily as he could. I think it was a smart move. I really liked how they executed it. Great. What's her name again? The woman who
Mari Yamamoto, I believe.
Yeah, I just love the way she acted really well in that scene. She really portrayed like all the flooding of emotions that a person probably would feel in that situation. That was executed really well. And yeah, to your guys' point, it really is in her character. Like she really didn't lose who she was. Like, yeah, she processed it as much as she could before she realized, okay, we have a job to do. We need to get out of here. Let's worry about this later. And I think looking at it from that point of view, it really puts into perspective like how strong she is as a person. Because like we've seen it from episode 1. Like she's really not afraid to show that, like when her and Shaw were first introduced to each other, like, oh, I'm looking for the doctor, and she's like, no, it's me. And she's really not afraid to hey, I know I'm a woman, I know I'm Japanese in this time period, like in this social climate. I'm not afraid to let that hold me back. Like, so yeah. It just really builds on her being a strong, having strong characteristics, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think definitely in terms of the human character arcs that we've gotten in the MonsterVerse so far, I would say probably her and Shaw and Randa are the better moments for this entire universe. And I hope they can build off more of it, because what an insane amount of levels of emotion that she's dealing with. Happy because she's being saved, and Shaw's the one to save her, but at the same time there's the horror and the tragedy and the sadness and the grief and confusion, all of that all in one scene. And Mari Yamamoto just did an insanely incredible job. That I wanted. I know it wasn't a ton to really deep dive, other than to just kind of show the appreciation of it, because I think it's a scene that needed to be talked about, because it was that good. And I think because it was in a way so flawless, we could kind of forget how difficult of a scene it was to do right. And because it was done right, it was like, wow, absolutely incredible. Koj, your thoughts about the reunion?
Oh, that broke me up. I was crying with you guys. You saw that.
Yeah.
It was very well done. And in the events that everyone really cares about the people that they love in this show, and they honor that with the show, and they give them time for that. Maybe too much time, one could argue. I could see that, but I like that it is a center point of what matters, that these characters aren't handled well or not, they try. And I like how they had time to have this moment. It didn't feel rushed. It felt like they had enough time to express everything honestly and caringly to each other. Like, Shaw taking his time to reveal himself after he said, hey, I'm here, but time has passed. Because losing time with people is very painful, because we see Randa having 2 lives, and he's lost time with his kids. And then she's lost time with all that she thought was still around. She didn't know she was gone that long. So I guess losing time with people is also like losing them entirely, because you miss so many moments that we matter. Because the time we spend with people we love, that means everything. So that was really gut wrenching to see that reality, and
Mhm.
to realize that she has another chance was with more family, her granddaughter.
Mm.
It's just a lot to take in, and she was even going to throw that away because she was so destroyed by it. But
I'm
I'll let
so
her
glad you
speak
brought
about
that up, Koj, because like, yeah, like you talk about how she has a second chance here to to see the world and to be a part of her family's lives again, even though Bill's gone, but Shaw's still there. But she's like, I'm gonna stay at one point. And I remember being like thinking about like, what are you saying? Like, go. But you can tell it's like the moment kind of got the best of her. Like she is afraid, she does not know what to expect. And sometimes the best way, just kind of like Hiroshi,
Mhm.
the best way to handle the situation was to kind of ignore it, not to face it, not to go through with it. And I think it was just a really great, interesting complexity of her character of just like, where is she going to go with this? Like, what is the reunion with eventually Hiroshi going to look like? But yeah, great points all around. Super Bro, your thoughts about the Shaw and Keiko reunion?
Yeah, man. Shout out to Monarch Legacy of Monsters for creating, what Dean classified Monarch Eyes Only said as the best human scene in the MonsterVerse. I kind of agree with this, man. It was such a touching moment. I loved every aspect of it. Like obviously Keiko was very interesting in this portion, but I have to say you already know I love Shaw. Shaw was my favorite character throughout the show, and while he still loves her, he was also still doing his job, which was to protect her. And he knew that this was going to be a difficult reveal, and I loved how he was just kind of hiding behind the tree a little bit, not wanting to scare her off, and just that guardian vibes that Shaw has always given me of her and for her. So I thought it was a beautiful moment, a very touching moment, and definitely one of the best scenes for human interaction in the MonsterVerse, in my opinion.
I'm really glad you said that, Cray, because that's exactly what I was getting at, was that he has always wanted, while he loves her, he has always wanted to protect her. That was his job from the get-go. And he even kind of says that to her in that moment, right? When they find the device and they're trying to get out of Axis Mundi. He's just like, she's like, what are you doing? Why are you getting out? And he's like, I'm doing my job, which meant I'm doing my job to protect you, and I'm not going to fail this time. And it becomes even a heavier moment later on. But I'm glad you really brought that up again, Corey, because that's exactly what he's doing, right? Like he knew it was going to be a hard moment. So even while he's obviously ecstatic out of his mind, she's still alive, and he would want to just wrap his arms around her. He was a protector first. He was her guardian first. It's exactly kind of like what Emiko was able to do. There's so many of these like reflections of different characters dealing with different the tragedies, right? Where Emiko still approached the moment, something that is affecting her greatly with Hiroshi. He's betrayed her, and rather than focusing on herself first, she stayed true to who she was in the beginning, which was a mom, protective over her child, and letting him know that this is important to me, like take care of your son, and like now my part. And in the same part, Shaw, he wants to just jump up, wrap his arms around her, and just never let her go. And he takes the moment of my job from the get-go was to protect her, and I'm here to protect her again. So very, very powerful all around. And obviously the great part is she still has some of the devices that are going to be the key to getting them out. She's the one, as we learn, is the person that's sending out the beacons with the gamma ray simulator that Shaw had back in 1962 with Operation Hourglass. We kind of theorized that it's obviously heavy, as they kind of showed in the show, so she wouldn't have been able to carry it by herself. But we were thinking maybe during the events of Operation Hourglass, when it was being pulled by the gravity, that at some point it must have unlocked and fallen near her or near that area that she made a campsite at, and that's what she's been using ever since. But obviously, having Shaw there, he was able to see like, well, this is our ticket out of here. We're gonna get out of here all together, and she must have tweaked it in a way to where it was only giving off low gamma ray signals so that it wouldn't really entice Titans to come by. But she's gonna switch it back to its old original aspect, and I love that. While we're getting the scene of, they're carrying this gamma ray simulator through, the kids are being annoying like they normally were throughout the show. But we also get this moment where like you see in a weird way, like their parental nature to both of Shaw and Keiko, how they're kind of referring our kids, and I loved the scene between them where Shaw's kind of giving her the lowdown of the rest of the things of what's going on in the world now, and how he always looked at it as he was just the military guy, right? Like the one that he was just basically the weapons and the force, and she kind of reminds him like, hey, we built this together. This is all of us who have built Monarch. This is our legacy, not just Bill and I's. And I just love that. It just shows once again, like, in a weird way, what we've seen throughout this entire story, when Bill Randa was willing to take it back, seeking the third wheel for Shaw and Keiko, and then Shaw does the same for Bill Randa, like you just realize like how good of friends the legacy cast was. And it's really touching to see them have this wonderful chemistry with each other, and to also learn of what kind of the relationships he's already building with Kate, in a way, with Keiko, when they're talking about Axis Mundi, which is the name Keiko was given, because she even says like, hey, this Axis Mundi is not the Titan homeworld. It's not Hollow Earth like we were thinking it is. It's something in between. It's the portal between heaven and earth, right? The Axis Mundi that Kate is able to know as a teacher. So
you said numerous times too that you thought it might be a pocket as well too, like that middle ground area. So that
I'm glad I said that, because that's what I was thinking. That was the only way I could see it making sense, right? Because that was one of the issues we had in episode 9, and I think Javon, who's one of our viewers, who's been kind of not so much of a fan of this particular show, which is fine. But like even Javon was like, they didn't explain this, and in this episode they did, whereas basically there's this pocket dimension essentially, or this pocket realm called Axis Mundi, where the gravity is so strong, which affects the time around them. But in Hollow Earth and on the surface Earth, time is not affected in the way it is. So that's why it's explained in Godzilla versus Kong, where Cast, who does go into Hollow Earth, is able to come out with no time change, essentially. So I'm glad they took a few seconds to answer some plot holes at the time. They didn't clear them up all, but it was a good little quick scene for us there. But as they set up their device, I really just love the moments that we're having with Shaw. He's excited to get back with Keiko. And, obviously May and Kate are going to be getting back, but it lures the Ion Dragon. And man, I got to say, one thing that I loved about this particular scene was the reference that they did. Did anyone catch the Back to the Future reference?
No.
Oh, wait. When they were coming back?
Yeah. So if you recall, in Back to the Future, the cables that are going to hit the lightning strike, that's going to give them the energy they need to go back in time. The cable disconnects, so Emmett Brown has to come out and reconnect it. And the fact that they were totally playing into it, and in a way, it's funny because, like, think about it. Back to the Future is literally what they did. They went back to the freaking future in this little time portal. So it was just like a cool, like, little geeky thing. I was like, oh, I know what they're doing here. This is funny.
I didn't even notice that. Good catch.
Thank you. Yep. You could just tell, like, when I think with all shows, you can see different inspirations of what a director kind of goes like, oh, this is kind of a similar, like, thing that happens in this other thing. Like one of the biggest shows I think about is like Clone Wars, how they had like an Aliens episode, there was a Jurassic Park, even a Godzilla episode in the Dave Filoni Clone Wars. So there's some cool little Easter eggs there if you're ever paying attention or are able to catch it quick enough. But I really like the scene, and it's tense, right? Like we're kind of getting similar visuals of the Ion Dragon where he's just terrorizing Shaw's crew again. It's just like basically a memory flashback for him in a loop almost. But we get this wonderful, wonderful entrance to the man himself, the king of the monsters, God freaking Zilla.
Here we go.
Guys, I know it was quick. I know it was short, and it was a moment we were all waiting for. But I've heard a lot of people say that this is one of the greatest, intros of all time with Godzilla. What was your thoughts about this entire scene when the big G-Man shows up, Josh?
Oh, yeah, I saw that tweet about, hey, this, I think it was maybe TJ or somebody who said this might rival Wonder Woman's entrance in BVS, and I was like, ooh, I did, even though I wasn't in the theater, I was sitting right over there on my couch. My jaw was like, just like seeing y'all's reaction, when I heard the roar of G-Man, I was like, yes, let's go. And of course, because of the trailers, we knew this was coming, but still, this moment was built up so well with everything you talked about, Trey, with the sweet reunion, Shaw, talking about buying the first round when they get back. And then when everything's kind of happy-go-lucky, I was just like, nah, something's going down. And of course, we knew G-Man was coming. And seeing that silhouette, the way it was done with the Ion Dragon, which was terrifying in my opinion. But, when G-Man came, you were just like, the king is here. Everybody bow down. I had goosebumps. I had chills. And I was like, I loved watching y'all's reaction because it was exactly the same way I reacted. So thank y'all for documenting that in the Monarch Monster.
Coming from a con fan too, I dig it.
Yeah, it was good, right? Cool. We appreciate it. Hey, we'll give credit where credit's.
Yeah, exactly.
I think one of the funny things of it's great that you brought up the reaction during our watch party, Josh, because I watched the episode again this morning with my wife because obviously I do the watch party initial reaction with you guys, and then I watch it again with her so she can be caught up. But she started when she heard the Godzilla roar, she immediately went like, "Oh, this is what you were screaming about last night." And I was like, "Damn, girl!" Like, yes, like okay, like she's like, "It makes sense. Like this is epic." And I was like, "Right, thank you." Like, it's a great scene. Or I was you weren't with us on the watch party, but I imagine you were probably jumping out of your seat too.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Shaw hits one of the most relatable lines during this whole moment of just nothing can ever just be easy. And I felt that real deep to me. Because here he is thinking that he's just going to be able to go home with the woman that he loves and the two kids. And then shit starts to break. And then one of the moments, obviously Godzilla showing up was awesome. Just that shot of him just coming through. It's almost as if he's like walking through a waterfall, coming through. But the moment that I noticed was, Grandma gets up out of the ship to watch because that's her guy. She has gone up to battle for him. And now, he's kind of returning the favor for her, where he's now coming to battle for her to help her out. And, I had said during your guys's last review that I thought Godzilla was going to be that third person that kind of helped them. And in a way, I was kind of right. He kind of helps them get back home and stuff. But, just that moment of her like recognizing as well, kind of like us as a fan, hearing that roar, she immediately knows who it is. And she's even wanting to see it. And, she kind of forgets in the moment of what's going on because she's in awe. She's watching her guy. And for him to be the one that shows up and kind of helps her out when she's been the one that, has been up to bat for him, it was nice to see him return the favor. And yes, I would have liked if the fight would have just been even just a minute or two longer would have been great for me because, the Ion Dragon has been kind of the one that we've been wanting to see a lot more of and also kind of see its ass get kicked. And so I would have liked to see it a little bit more. But overall, super awesome. And it was good to see him return the favor to her.
Yeah, I think the fact that the Godzilla scene, I know it was fairly quick, but I think in a way maybe it was a good thing. Like, yes, we always want more Godzilla. Anytime there's more Godzilla, like, sign us up for more. But in a way, I was thinking about this complaint too, because I heard a lot of people talk about it. And to me, it was like, did anyone expect it to go long though? Like, I never once thought that Ion Dragon had a shot to like even joke that he was going up against the King of the Monsters. Like, to me, it made sense that Godzilla was like able to just like, it was just swatting at a fly, essentially, and just being like, bro, like, get on Rodan and King Ghidorah's level. Like, get out of my way.
I would have watched a minute of him, doing the
Just
Hulk to
stomping out.
Loki and just boom, 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 boom. I would have watched that for an extra minute. I would have loved
Puny
it.
God.
Yeah, I didn't need it to be a competitive fight. I wanted
You
it
wanted
just to
this,
be a little fun.
basically.
Exactly. Also,
Okay.
shout out to the Jaguar.
Yes.
that would have been insane. Maybe we'll get that with Godzilla Kong. Adam Wingard has said that there's some scenes that are just like 8 minutes of just nonstop monster action. So I think anyone in the Monsterverse community, if it didn't do enough for you with Godzilla, don't worry. There's a movie coming out soon that's going to be enough monsters. So prepare yourselves. But Nick, what was your thoughts about good old G-Man showing up to save the day?
So, yeah, great fight, but hot take, I don't think it was worth the 10-episode wait. It was fun to see. Like, when it happened, it was more it was like less of, oh, awesome, a fight's coming on, and it was more of, oh, fucking finally, holy shit. Because, I mean, me personally, I'm a guy, I like a lot of kaiju action in my monster movies and monster TV shows. I understand that that the main focus was the humans, but I really think there could have been a lot more Titan activity in this show. Like I said, it was a great fight, but I feel like this is something that should have happened maybe in mid season. Actually, this is actually something, not to go off track, but had something like this happened in Godzilla 2014, I think that movie would have been perfect, because I like Godzilla 2014, but it's just almost perfect. Like, the one thing that me personally I would need to make 2014 perfect was a little skirmish in the airport, and had something like this happened then, boom, perfect there. But yeah. Anyways, this fight seems like something that we should have already gotten in, and that is in Godzilla 2014. I do like how cocky the Ion Dragon seems. He's like he's gonna square up with a monster twice his size. Godzilla breathes fire, and what's his power? He can just throw up on him. I like how Godzilla essentially made quick work of him. I also I think it did cutting to the humans fairly well, because I know the it's the age-old thing, like, how come they always got to cut to the humans when the monsters are fighting? We don't care about that. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's true, but at the end of the day, it you kind of need to do that, because the humans, they're part of the story. And I think the way that they did it here was really good, because they could have had Godzilla show up and then have the cable become unplugged, and had that happened, it would have been Godzilla fights the Ion Dragon, and then cut back to Lee Shaw trying to get everything hooked back up. But I think, if I remember correctly, when they cut back to the humans here, it was only to show something that was absolutely necessary for a few quick seconds, and then it cut back to the monsters. So I think it really balanced out monster action and cutting back to the humans really well.
Yeah. You bring up some great points, Nick. Like, I think if one thing, yeah, it's somewhat necessary to kind of show the humans in the action while the Titans are battling, because I think it creates some scale of just how enormous the situation is. But as
it sort of adds stakes to the human. It gives stakes to the human story.
Yeah, just like
how are they handling being caught up in this brawl between these two gigantic creatures?
Yeah, because sometimes, like, when you're watching that action, you can kind of forget like how like crazy and like just enormous this situation is, and just kind of like Dean Classified says, it adds to the tension because you can put yourself in that position. If you see the humans, every time the monsters are shaking, they're losing their footing, because who the hell could stand straight when there's just rumbling going around like earthquakes every 5 seconds? So I could see where you could say that, like, in a way, maybe because of some of the filler episodes, like maybe the show could have maybe been 8 episodes long, 6 even,
right?
Rather than dragging it on for 10. Or, as we'll talk about in our season overview, maybe they should have focused in different areas that would have made that episode 10 big epic battle between Ion Dragon and Godzilla a little more satisfying, a little less like, thank God we needed that,
right,
to get us through. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, even Gareth Edwards kind of talked about that scene at the Hawaiian airport with the Godzilla and Muto, is that he purposefully, the studio did not like that he did that, but he was like, that's exactly what I wanted to happen. I wanted
Oh my God, I'm about to go on a tangent. If you can I go on a quick tangent real quick?
Go right, cook, my man, go.
Oh my God. So I had this conversation coming back from the Pickwick Theater at G-Fest with a friend, like back to the hotel with a friend at G-Fest. The fact that that's the direction Gareth Edwards decided to go with that, with a Godzilla movie, like, no, like, there needed to be I would have settled at this point. I would have settled for a 30-second quick skirmish match between the two, because, yeah, I heard that when Gareth Edwards said that. I forget which interview it was, but I definitely recognize him saying that. He's the kind of guy who likes to sort of save the, I guess for lack of better words, main attraction for the end. And that's fine. And that works for something like his film Monsters, where like the main focus of the movie was, it's a story about these two trying to navigate their way through a like this sort of like apocalyptic wasteland. Like, the focus was not on the monsters, and like, it's an original property. But when if you do that to something like Godzilla, who hasn't had a movie in 10 years, like, people, I'm sorry, but people have certain expectations, like, they want to see, like holy shit, Godzilla's back after a decades-long hiatus. I can't wait to see him kick ass. And it's bad enough you killed off Bryan Cranston. At least make up for that with a little skirmish at the airport. I understand where you're coming from. You want to save the main attraction, but for something like Godzilla, and especially when Godzilla has come back after a long time, you just can't do that, my man.
It's so fun. I'm glad I had a similar reaction. I mean, to me, it's like Gareth Edwards. I think he's a brilliant director, but when I heard that particular interview where he says that, I was just like, well, you got exactly what you wanted, but you definitely pissed off a lot of people in the process.
Right.
And this was maybe the instance where, like, usually I don't like studio interference, if you know anything about our channel. But I think the studio may have been right in that particular situation.
Right.
Where, like, no, show us that fight sequence real quick.
Right, and that's sort of like what happened, like how it felt in Legacy of Monsters, especially because it was advertised as like, oh, it's going to be this show about humans and monsters. Like, they're going to get equal. I mean, this show really taught me to always take what you see in advertising with a grain of salt. Like, I've always been very naive to that. But I forgot where I was going with this. Oh yeah. Yeah, like I said before, when this fight happened, it was more of a like, holy shit, thank God something's going on. Because, it's not necessarily a bad thing when the humans have more focus than the monsters in a Godzilla movie. Like, there are countless films that have done it well. Shin Godzilla, Invasion of Astro Monster. Wait, what was it, that or Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster that had the least amount of Godzilla screen time?
I think it was Astro Monster, if I recall.
Okay, yeah. Well, regardless, one of those two had like was mostly focused on the humans and goated films. But it like so there's nothing wrong with having the humans be the main focus in a kaiju film and just sort of have the kaiju sort of take a back seat to everything that's going on. But you gotta have like strong characters to carry the story, like when the monsters aren't off screen. Like, and that's exactly was one of my main issues with Monarch, is because half the characters in the show are just boring, unlikable, and just poorly written. And the characters that are, and that just puts the slack on the characters that are really well written. Like, you know, it puts it on Shaw, on Keiko, on Randa, and all that. And it's so, yeah, the fight, it was freaking awesome. Like, probably one of my favorite fight scenes of the whole MonsterVerse, just with the way, and like, but it really sort of was like, you know, when you're a kid, you want dessert, but your parents are like, you gotta eat your vegetables. So like here, it's like, I want Godzilla fight. Well, you gotta sit through Kate, May, and Kentaro being unlikable for 10 episodes.
Yep.
Then you'll get your dessert. But yeah, overall, like, really awesome scene, but not without the flaws that come with it.
Gotcha.
And that's pretty much how I describe the whole show. Like, it's good, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. Like,
that's
people
fair.
are gonna not like this.
Okay. Yeah, and I can definitely see where you say there's some flaws. Absolutely. It's definitely not perfect, but whether it works for you or not in terms of what you're hoping to get out of it, you know, I think there's something for everyone, you know, and if you do want more of a human, slow drive kind of mystery to it, like, then maybe you're digging the show. If you want action and you want Titans just destroying everything, you're like, this is definitely not for you. There's not a lot of action to it. But just to address real quick, Red Hooded Outlaw, I know this has been up for a little bit. Sorry, it's taking me a while to come to it. But thank you so much for your $5 super chat. Just saying, Godzilla kick some major ion dragon ass. You know, oh man, it was just. I have a theory that I haven't talked about yet about the battle, but we'll definitely get into it in just a second here. But Red Hood Outlaw, thank you so much for your $5 super chat, brother. It really means a lot when you support us like this. Corey, can you play Red Hooded something to say a little thank you for his generosity?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Can I just say like one more thing before I pass the mic over to someone else? Mm-hmm. You mentioned we're getting, it's like there's something for everybody. I think that's a perfect way to describe like the state of Godzilla as a whole. You know, like we're getting serious like stuff from Japan, and then we're getting the wacky Showa era vibes from the MonsterVerse. So, you know, if you don't like the MonsterVerse, well, Japan's in the process of cooking up some content. You don't like, you're more of like, oh, giant monster go brrr. Well, here's the MonsterVerse. It's wacky, it's stupid, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's definitely different tastes that I think everyone can enjoy. Because I've seen a few people be like, "Oh, Godzilla -1 is going to ruin it for Godzilla Kong," because it was such a cinematic masterpiece that even Hollywood's taking notice of it. You know, that I think like no, I think there's room for both. One's an artesian film, and the other one is action summer flick fun. You know, that
it's
you're
like
just
comparing apples to oranges.
It also raised the standard. You know, it showed that if you do this properly and you give Godzilla the time, fans will go and see it. If you make a good Godzilla movie, people will go and see it. I was telling everybody, even though I knew they weren't Godzilla fans, you gotta go see it. I offered to babysit kids so that they could go out and go see this movie. I even said, hell, take Benji to go see it. He's gonna love it.
Dude,
you know?
My dad was in like back in December. My parents were in town, and we all went to dinner. And my dad was like, "Hey, I was thinking about going to see Godzilla -1. Is it any good?" Like, my dad could give a flying fuck about giant monster movies. He's a sports guy, but the fact that like it was like it's breaking the mainstream. It's putting Hollywood in its place. And how fucking awesome is it that a movie that's like a foreign film that's putting Hollywood in its place and sort of saying like, hey, look, this is how like it can be done this way. How great is it that it's a fucking Godzilla movie of all franchise?
Not a lot of money.
Dude,
That's one of the biggest things is they did something so unbelievable because it's such a powerful and dynamic piece of material. You can do anything. You can tell any story with Godzilla because it's got so many different layers and angles that you can go through with it, that if you put in the time and effort, you can make a good Godzilla movie and the US audience will go and see it.
And now they're going to take even more of our money when they do the black-white version like that. I'm looking forward to going and seeing and experiencing that.
Literally a shut up and take my money moment.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it is such an interesting time to be a Godzilla fan. Like, so much is happening. Like, we're getting good Godzilla media. We're getting meh Godzilla media. Like, and it's so much fun to, like, it's like comparing apples to oranges, but it's so much fun to, like, analyze all this stuff. And just, like, and, like, that's a great reason why I love going to G-Fest, because, like, it's just a meeting of people, like, in person. And, like, you take away, because, like, a lot of the time, the only way to interact with other fans is online, and it's like a really awesome opportunity to go to these conventions. And my good friend Scrooge, shout out Scrooge, put it this way: it's a great opportunity to sort of talk to people face to face and sort of say, I like this movie because X, I dislike this movie because X, and it's maybe change some people's minds. Like, that's it sort of really takes the element of just because you argue, or just because you're talking about something with differing opinions, you have to argue. And, like, that's a lot. You see that a lot on the internet. Like that really, the feel is there. Like, you can't really talk to somebody on the internet without it feeling like, oh, this is a discourse argument. I don't even know where I was going with that tangent, but somebody take over.
I think the basically the general idea of it is just like, it just shows why Godzilla is here to stay in the pop culture entertainment realm, because he's a character that can be used in many different ways, whether it's silly, whether it's fun, whether it's entertaining, whether it's like you're trying to actually say something artistic, cinematically, and like have a powerful message behind it. Like he there's so much you can use him for, and because of that flexibility in his genre and him as a character, Godzilla's here to stay, for quite some time. He's going to be around for another 100 years.
Well, like you have said, Trey, numerous times, it's a damn good time to be a Godzilla fan.
It is. It truly is. To get back to episode 10, sorry about the craziness. I know some people are probably like, what the hell? When we talk about Godzilla, -1 is going to come up somewhere in the conversation. It's so good.
I think that's just like the ADHD nature of this fandom. Like, we want to talk about one thing, but we can't help shoehorning like other topics into the conversation. Like, I cannot tell you how many conversations I've had where it's like that. I can't even remember the last time I had a conversation about Godzilla that focused on like one specific movie or topic. It's always like derailed in some form of another.
Right. And you're always pulling like from different themes that made you a fan in the first place about Godzilla. And I think that's just what's great. Like, with the new content, like, if it is for you or if it's not for you, like, there's so much Godzilla content that there's something there for you, and that's the beautiful thing about this Godzilla community.
There's 70 years worth of Godzilla content out there, so there's a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. Koj, your thoughts about the insane quick Godzilla showdown with the Ion Dragon?
All right, give me a second, because I was just going on tangents with y'all. Shoot. I loved it. No problem. I mean, he was going to smack that fool in a few seconds. I was surprised it took longer than it did.
It was like Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar, in Survivor Series.
No, I would say it's like, you watch the show and they have Hulk Hogan and they have someone local that he fights and then he's done. That's how I took it. because Godzilla's going to destroy that guy. But it's the fight, it's the Godzilla that I want in the show. But I think as the show went, I think it was giving us Godzilla in that fight and finding Keiko. I think it balanced out what the whole show was doing, because it was centered more on the humans, and I feel every single character buildup of the humans built up with Keiko, and the amount that we got with kaijus throughout each episode built up to this fight, and just the time we got with either one bounced down this episode. So I thought it was great. It's what I wanted, and I always want Godzilla and everything tearing ish up, and I was satisfied. I liked it.
Okay.
I was expecting it. So I was just, no problem. You guys said everything that I want to say too. So it's all good.
Oh, I'm sorry, Coach. Coach is like, man, why you gotta put me last? He's stealing all my thoughts. You're like, sorry, bro.
I was like, man, I don't need these sticky pads. Oh my gosh.
Super Bro, your thoughts about the throwdown between Neon Dragon and Godzilla?
Bro, the fight was cool and all, but I have to tell you, my favorite portion of this was this right here, bro. Like, and I wish he had it a little bit before, Trey. Like, when you first hear the like ground roar, and then you see it just Godzilla slowly walk up to this portal shield, and he just slowly puts his head and everything through it, dude. I got freaking chills, and I was pumped up at that because, bro, every time we've seen them cross through this Axis Mundi force field, it is hectic. It is chaos. Shit's flying around all over the place, and people are losing their mind. And Godzilla is just even the other smaller kaijus are kind of like the Ion Dragon flying around like all crazy, like winds and everything, trying to push through this force field. And with just the sheer mass and power of Godzilla, just being able to like walk through with a freaking smile, coming through like, all right, dinner bell, like he's just so just like chill about coming in and everything like that. That freaking scene pumped me up, and it's what I continue to watch like on repeat. I think TJ posted that portion as well, or I saw it somewhere, and they just looped that, him coming through, and I love that moment so much. As for the fight, Trey, I think there was so much going on and everything like that. I didn't realize that, it was definitely a short fight, seeing it the second time, but like in the moment and the craziness of it all, it didn't bother me. Like, you knew Godzilla was going to swat away at this dude, but there was even a moment where like, the Ion Dragon like is kind of biting at his neck, which what I've noticed is it seems like Godzilla sometimes has a little bit of an issue with like the flying fast monsters, but the second he got a hold of them, he just tore them apart and then chucked them. It was beautiful. So it's quick work, but like, there was not going to be, Godzilla wasn't going to have any issues whatsoever, but it was kind of cool seeing it like peck at his neck a little bit too. So and try to throw up on it, like that's freaking gross, and Godzilla wasn't having any of it, so that's why he ripped him in half and chucked him
like, that's disrespectful. I'm the king.
Bro, I feel
like
bad
the memes that have been coming out of this. Trey, did you see what I just sent you on Instagram?
No, I'll check right now.
But right, like, I feel bad for the people that, or on the other side right now, who had to deal with that craziness. Trey, if you send it to me in the back chat, I'll post it. But yeah, okay. I loved the fight. I thought it was awesome. I was here for it. Godzilla was just amazing, and it was the entrance for me. Just like at the WWE events, Coach J. Like, da na 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 na. Goldberg entrance coming out. Like that's what that portion was to me, and the fight was just boom, people's elbow and done. Spear, jackhammer, pin. Who's next?
You know. Yeah, man. It was to me. You knew it was coming from the mid-season trailer that they did. It was just it was going to be just a fun, quick Titan brawl. And the theory. So I saw someone was like, "Oh, first I'll address the quick $5 super chat from the amazing webhead Corey. I did send you in the back chat."
Okay.
If Keiko shows up in the films, do you see her or Madison Russell as the MonsterVerse Mickey Segusa, since both are Team Godzilla? Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, to me, it does seem like I don't think Millie Bobby Brown is in the new Godzilla Kong, the new Empire. At least I haven't seen anything about the casting for her. So I think they're moving away from her, which I think is a good call because I didn't really see much purpose for her even in King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong. I felt like they just brought her there because she was like the popular actress of Stranger Things, and that was really it. She was just like kind of the ticket grab for the general audience, which that's fine. Sometimes you got to have that actor in there. But in terms of her character, she didn't really serve a ton of purpose. So I would love to see Keiko kind of take over, that kind of role. So, I mean, if anything, it makes sense, especially after King of the Monsters with losing Serizawa, that someone of that nature. I know we technically have Russell, that he's kind of taken over, but like he didn't serve a purpose in Godzilla vs. Kong either. So to have a character that we really have built a relationship with, and in a way she's very similar to Serizawa, I think it's a good idea to kind of maybe give her the reins of Monarch for sure. So I mean, but then again, we'll see. The ending could tell us something else that's going to happen. We don't see her show up in King of the Monsters, so who knows what's going on? You know, there's still a lot of years to play with before we get to the King Ghidorah event. But thank you so much for your $5 super chat, the Amazing Webhead. Great question. Corey, can you please the Amazing Webhead a little something to say thank you for supporting on the channel?
You are more beautiful than a hot dog and a beer at Wrigley Field on opening day.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it.
That's such a great scene. Go Cubs, go.
I do have that meme too, Trey.
Go ahead and pull up the meme real quick. This is what Nick just sent us in the back chat on Instagram. It's absolutely hilarious. I've seen a few people post something similar to this. You know, Godzilla looking all pissed off, like dad coming out, like, what are you kids doing? Like, what are you doing? Come on.
Any Aqua Teen Hunger Force fans will get this and just
oh man, that's so great.
Jim Carrey's Grinch, where he's just like,
oh yeah, I have seen that one too. That one's a funny one. There's been so many of those memes going around that's like just brilliant, and that's part of the greatness of Godzilla just coming in. He's always having to save the day. But I know some people were asking about my theory. Thank you, Beyond the Night. My theory is that when Godzilla was coming through, I've always looked at Godzilla, especially in the MonsterVerse, as highly intelligent, that he's really connected to humans and really does consider himself a bit of the protector of humanity. And that could be from his days of, in his Hollow Earth temple, of how the humans used to really, praise him as this godlike being. And to me, it seems like when he comes through that Hollow Earth portal that and gets into Axis Mundi, that curtain of light, it seems like he does recognize the people. He recognizes the Gamma simulator that he saw on that Monster Island in a previous episode. But I think more importantly, it seems like he knows what he's doing. Just as Shaw said, I think in episode 8, he knows what he's doing. He thinks, he's an intelligent being. So I think when he rips the Ion Dragon apart, you see him throw half of the Ion Dragon through the portal, and I think that would create safe passage for the humans to get back. So rather than, how last time when Operation Hourglass, you could see the Ion Dragon flying around, he could have caused problems for, those people in that device going through to Axis Mundi, that in a way Godzilla was creating the tunnel of safe passage for them, because now they don't have to worry about the Ion Dragon causing them any destruction through their path back. So to me, that's how I like to look at it, whether you want to say like that's how it went down or not, or I'm just reaching. To me, it helps solidify more when I first saw it as like Godzilla is very intelligent, and he has a purpose, especially when it comes to protecting humanity from other titans. So I like that idea of this MonsterVerse Godzilla. What out of curiosity, did anyone catch that? Is anyone like, that's
no, for sure. I think he did need. One at a time. I want to go through this whole time period, Access Mundi little thing. I have a little setup, but I think he was giving them a good anchor to get back by throwing that creature. In fact, I was wondering when we see that creature land on where they arrived, maybe it landed on Kong, and he came and he's like, "Who threw that shit at me?" You know, maybe that's why he was there at the end. You know, his dead creature falls on me. He's angry. But
it just seems interesting that he always shows up, right? Like whenever humans are in need, especially these particular group, he's always around, you know?
Yeah, because it's like a storm in a lighthouse. If you can't find the ships, what they do, they have a bunch of other tiny ships with ropes so you don't get lost to pick someone up and bring you back. I can see him doing that for that, because we did see Godzilla step backwards, so they had free passage. It was the second of it. So I believe your theory, honestly. He was helping them out because he saw Keiko, he saw Kate. He's like, "Oh, it's you. Let me go back for my..." You know, when he came up from the ground in the desert. I totally support that. I totally believe that.
Cool. I like it. To me, it's just a fun continuation of just his connection with humanity, and I dig the idea of him just like always kind of going out of his way to put the Titans in their place so that they don't cause humans any problem. But when the humans start messing around, then he kind of shows up and is like, you know, with Mechagodzilla eventually with Godzilla versus Kong. I
could go into further detail of that Access Monday right now if you want.
Actually, it's funny you bring that. Let's do this one slide real quick.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about, because we're actually going to talk about Access Mundi like in just a moment.
All right, perfect. I'll save it there.
No, you all good. So obviously, Corey, if you can go to the next slide, please. We get the scene that broke our hearts. You heard us like, I kind of knew it was coming. Anytime you have a character having like a really emotional moment in a finale, or like having some closure about something, or a chance to redeem something that they felt guilty with, you're kind of like, shit. I think Walking Dead has really messed us up, Corey. It definitely has.
Buddy.
Because anytime you're like the moral compass or anything like that, you're like, shh, you're a goner. I knew when Shaw had his moment with Keiko, I was like, crap. As soon as he got out, I was like, they're gonna do this thing where like he could be dead, he might not. It always happens at a season finale where you never know if an actor is gonna return or not. They're able to get him, so they'll have the opportunity of whether they do kill him off or if he's still alive.
I have a theory there.
But obviously he has this moment where he's trying to get back onto the pod, but the gravity is pulling them into the Hollow Earth portal, and it's just not going to be safe. And obviously he's going to put Keiko first instead of himself. And he has that moment where he just says, thank you. And just, you could see the love in his eyes in that moment as he lets go. I think he's still alive. It makes sense. We know people don't die in Access Mundi. Keiko didn't die. Our post G-Day crew didn't die. Anyone else? Are we all in agreement that probably if they decide to with season 2, Shaw's out there somewhere?
No.
I think we might see him before season 2.
Nah.
Before season? Oh, you think he's going to appear in Godzilla Kong: The New Empire?
I think there might be a surprise there. I think it might be a cameo. I think he may eventually find his way to inner realm of Hollow Earth. But yes, I think it's a possibility.
Okay. Well, we do see that there was 2 tunnels, right? When they start going through Hollow Earth, they go to the left when there was one to the right. Maybe the one to the right takes you to Hollow Earth.
Yep.
No, it's possible that he's down there. Who knows?
Because there's that one where he says, she's like, "Oh, we fell," and he's like, "Did we fall or did we enter?" And the rabbit, Kiko says the rabbit hole, and he says, "Yeah, Alice, we got to get back to it." So you're right. All right, Art, go ahead.
I think he went through with them because the biggest reason why I think that is when we see that flashback of him flying through, or when he first came back, he's being essentially sucked through the hole. He's holding on as his legs are up in the air and he's being sucked through. So if he falls, I think he still gets sucked up and go through. And like what Trey was saying was, you know, there was multiple pathways Apex plucked them out and grabbed them to bring them exactly where they wanted the group to land. Shaw didn't get that, so he is now, somewhere else, wherever he is. So I think he got sucked up as well. Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think about that? That's an interesting theory. That like he's not stuck in Axis Mundi. He's out somewhere. He's either in Hollow Earth, or I'm gonna guess he's in Hollow Earth if he did get sucked through. Just because I don't imagine him like coming out and not immediately sticking with Keiko. It's an interesting theory. Let's see. Gianmarco says, my dad is adamant that Shaw's alive and that we'll see him in a second season. Hope you're right, Gianmarco. I hope so. Everyone's like, yeah, I want him to be alive. Because Corey and I, we're both like breathing heavily, like, no, Shaw. Like one of our favorite parts of this show, easily. Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell just did an amazing job with this character.
Well, I knew it was either going to be Keiko and Shaw that stayed back, because Keiko was going to say she wants to stay back because she didn't want to go mess up this whole new world, or Shaw was going to be left back in a hero sacrifice.
Straight up sacrifice for you, brother.
Sacrifice for you, Trey.
I dig that. It's very interesting. But of course, our group gets back, but it seems like people are ready for their arrival. Interesting enough, as we see Kentaro and Hiroshi and Tim waiting for them at this facility. They're with the whole new crew now, with all those sweet little toys. As we learn that Apex has been facilitating and is the new ally, or at least pretending to be their friends for now while they get what they want out of them. But we do get this really sweet reunion with Hiroshi and his mom. Kentaro is revealed to be the grandson of Keiko as well. So it's just all a big happy family. But we know, this moment we see Brenda, we're like, oh God, here we go. We know Apex is causing problems, but we hear off in the distance some stomping ground. We know that it's been 2 years since they've gone missing in Kazakhstan. Corey, let's go ahead and pull up our timeline real quick. So I added to our timeline. If you guys watch us on episode 9 breakdown, I really took the time to research, looked at a lot of the lore, the comics. It's definitely many hours gone into the research and trying to figure out what is accurate and what is not. What did they already decanonize? So some of it I kept just because it was nice to know if you wanted to look at it. But let's just mostly focus on our post G-Day crew for the most part. We know that Keiko, she was lost in 1959. She fell into the pit, and it's been supposedly 57 days. We can probably guess another, day went by when they were getting the device to go home. So she gets out. If it's been 2 years since our post G-Day crew fell in the pit, that was 2015. We can kind of guess it was either 2017 or 2018 that they get out. So a year or two before Godzilla King of the Monsters. Kind of crazy. So if you do all the calculations with that, with it being obviously 57 days for her in Axis Mundi, and 57 years have gone by. So from 1959 to 2017, 2018, however you want to look at it, 57 years have gone by. So for each day you were in Axis Mundi, that equals 1 year. Essentially, if I did my calculation correct.
Yeah, I think that's closer to what it is. Shaw's original thought of how long he was down there kind of threw us off a little bit. But because originally he said to Hiroshi that it was only a few hours.
And we also know from Kate and May that we can kind of guess they were in there for 2 days, just based on when it was daytime, when it was night. So 2 days, 2 years, pretty close to that. So time works very crazy in Axis Mundi. So if Shaw is still down there, hopefully he's not out for, too much longer. But when he gets out, Corey, you had a crazy theory once about if Shaw is still stuck in Axis Mundi. that if Keiko went to go find him, maybe they would be the same age.
Oh yeah, I did think that'd be kind of cool. Like, what if in a future season, or if it fast forwards some in this Monarch Legacy of Monsters, if Keiko finds a way to get back to Shaw and get him out of there, that she is aged 50 some years as well, and then who knows, 2017, so 50 years goes by, that's 2067. He made a Jetsons reference with the flying cars and everything like that. I hope I go back and there's flying cars there. It'd be funny if she goes back, grabs them, and they come back and we got flying cars. So
I mean, they kind of have one in Godzilla versus Kong, right, with the Hollow Earth aerial vehicle. So I mean, she wouldn't be lying if she does get him right before that. So that's kind of crazy. But as we learn, Apex is running this facility on big cameo, Skull Island. Our boy Kong shows up.
We're not going to talk about the moment of them reuniting.
Did you want to? I mean, I didn't know if there was so much to really deep dive there. I mean, clearly
It
it's
went by so quick. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was kind of a moment we were expecting was going to be a heavy one. I mean, Hiroshi, once again, Hiroshi still has a lot to answer for. It's obviously a traumatic experience. He gets his mom back. He had his uncle back for a little bit, but now his uncle's gone missing. But I think it'll be interesting. Hiroshi's going to be a very curious character in the next season if they do greenlight it, because I don't see his mom being able to take learning about his life and being like, really? Like in family, huh? Like you've abandoned your
I
kids.
raised you better than that.
I raised you better than that. For 7 years that you were around? Okay, that's kind of rude, but what about your father, Bill? Like, he abandoned me too, Mom.
I think his mom's going to come grace as well. She's going to feel bad for all the pain and struggles that he went to, that he's not the monster that he's turned out to be.
Well,
I guess we could be the mother that he always needed at the time, being the mom.
Exactly.
I think the thing we could maybe go into then is, it is obviously a very touching moment. He kind of gets the thing he's needed, right? He needs his mom back.
And I think yes, absolutely. And I think the other thing that I wanted to point out here too, before we move on to the final the best kaiju entrance clip ever, I would have to say is, how interesting did you guys find it that Apex was there ready to rock and roll, pick them up? They knew exactly where they'll be. To me, it almost seemed like maybe Hiroshi has kind of figured out some of this underground tunnels and where people come out of and everything like that now, or did that portal, originally was the landing spot of one of the Ion Dragons, so they knew, okay, let's come there because they saw the pulse move closer to that, re-entrance portal location. I don't know. I'd like to think that Hiroshi's figured out the underground railway in some ways, and that's why Apex was there ready to rock.
I think he did too. My
100%.
theory goes with that. Like, they're able to predict it based on how they know where the energy comes. I go into my explanation if you want.
Sure, yeah, Koji, go ahead.
All
I know
right.
you've been wanting to talk about this.
All right, cool. So this was it the big screen. It's the Apex.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? The center thing? It's not
Access Monday.
Thank you.
So Monday, yep.
The Access Monday. So this orange is like the planet, right? It's round, of course. And then to go to the signal, it's in the middle or deep down there, right? So the signal's coming from there, but over time, the planet goes around the sun and it spins. So the center is always going to be pointing, or the signal that they give, or the energy that comes out is always going to be coming from here. Now, when you go further deep down, things get denser, tighter. So I think things might get smaller. So this interdimension may not be perceived the same size as here, but to get there, you have to go down. So, like, if I was going to be the signal that she's doing, like, let's say that's the signal, right? Give me a sec. I thought I was prepared. This isn't a sword. This is an umbrella. I'm a geek like that. So
I was hoping it was a sword too.
I was hoping it was, yeah.
I
Umbrella
got
sword.
those two. So the thing is, all right. So if you're inside the center here and you look up, like if you're in the center, the top is going to be a curve, essentially. So and like if you spin anything, if you're from here, to get full circle takes a short amount of time, but for this part where the surface of the earth is, takes a longer amount of time to go around. So what I'm saying is, if you're given that signal or that energy is coming out, let's say this is the center and that's the top of so that glow that you see right there, that's like the end point of the signal of the energy coming from the axis mundi. So as the planet moves at its speed, that signal is going to move across the planet as it spins and goes around the sun. So if you look at the center of all these signals that Bill Randa and all the Randas were focusing, it was always a curve. So if you think about it, that's the spin of the planet going around the sun and spinning around in the galaxy where we are, and that signal is always going to be there. Since it spins so fast, for them, the signal is going to be in different spots. So I imagine Hiroshi is like, okay, from this pattern, we should bring him up here at this point, and then when time catches up here, the energy will link up and it'll have that Back to the Future moment, and then boom, you can suck him out. But only if you need to get him here where it's most strong, based on the pattern of how everything spins, that's when they could pull him out. And I think that's when they were able to predict when, and wouldn't take longer.
Damn,
Man,
Koji just fucking brought science class to the panel. Damn.
OJ the
I
science guy.
that one meme of Charlie Day just scribbling a whole bunch of algorithms on the board.
I had an orange flashlight and then a bell that broke. So much for the cool.
Holy shit, dude.
OJ the science guy. I
Oh
love
my
it.
god.
Welcome to a breakdown, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
I was thinking about this the last few days. So.
Bravo, Koji. Bravo. That was impressive.
Thank you. But that's how I think, because when you look at the map that they had, it was a squiggly line. And if you look at how it spins around the earth, and just
OJ the science guy.
I love you, man. That was amazing.
No, but that's
That
why I
was.
think that's how he could predict where they are and why
That's
they're
amazing.
there. And then Kong shows up. It's like, oh,
You know what's the best part? I could totally see Apple TV and Legendary right now, just like writing down everything.
Holy
he
shit.
said, like we're gonna
Holy
use this
shit.
shit.
Oh my
You
god.
know,
know to like and subscribe to the back.
like we didn't even explain it ourselves. Like, what did he say? Like replay it again. In 10
Oh.
seconds.
Like, I didn't catch that. Don't worry, it'll be a VOD later.
Yeah, they're gonna call us all and be like, all right, you guys have really good ideas and thoughts.
Can you like console on us? You know, like,
Honestly,
like,
I
yes,
think
we
that it's probably the explanation of like the map and the how everything is all like, oh, he's going from here to here to here. He's trying to predict something. I mean, it makes sense, but again, I think they didn't bother explaining it because that is a very big brain theory, and to a small brain audience. I'm not saying the Godzilla fan is a bunch of fucking idiots, but
Oh,
I mean, I sure as hell had a hard time keeping up with that. Like,
I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, just even listening to Cody, I was kind of like, hold on, like, yep, yep.
is that going to be on the test, Koji?
Yeah.
oh shoot! I'm passing something.
Dude,
That's my thought.
I love what everyone's saying in the chat, just saying they love this. Write that down. Koji, the science guy, Einstein Koji. He managed to give scientific sense to the tinfoil hat stuff. Everyone, put your tinfoil cap on because Koji's a madman.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
God.
see the meme of Leonardo DiCaprio, just look like with a beer pointing at the camera. That's everybody at Apple right now. Just like,
Well, thank you.
Oh
I
my
didn't know if
gosh.
that was crazy.
Did anyone else want to talk about anything with the reunion of Hiroshi and Keiko, or anything about that particular scene?
The one thing that I was thinking about when she was there, and once we kind of figure out that it's Skull Island, is that's where Bill died. And so I wonder if that will be something that is brought up about, you know, not only did she just find out that her husband died, but now she's at the place where he died, and she's probably going to want some answers as to what happened on this thing, because, you know, when she asked Lee what happened to Billy, he doesn't really have an answer because he doesn't even really know himself. And so I think now she's going to want some answers as to what happened here, that my husband's gone now. And so I thought that was very interesting that, you know, now she's where he died. And so I think she's going to raise some hell. She's going to need to borrow that pimp cane from Tim. And she's going to start slapping some people up because she wants to know what happened to her man.
Was Tim even wearing a cane at that point? Was he still in the cane? Or I think
No, I don't think so.
Probably
I think
not.
he was walking on his own.
But I'm sure he kept it.
Strength of a pimp.
Yeah. Every pimp, you know, and Cordy, and the truth is, Tim doesn't even need the pimp cane. He just freaking he keeps a pimp hand strong. You know, just the back. That's all he needs. He got his little clipboard that he just whacking people with, just like get that out. You know,
Fuck out of here.
he's the apex pimp. You know,
The Tim.
God, I love this
TIMP, the
so
Tim.
much. Obviously, as we talked about before, we get our big introduction, or a big cameo with Kong showing up, which kind of reminded me. I know some people have already kind of leaked it, but the moment I saw it, it kind of reminded me of it too. With I don't know if you guys ever saw when like Kong Skull Island was about to come out, they actually released like some San Diego Comic-Con you know, concept footage, and it was like Kong in the storm and everything like that. And to kind of see that we've seen them kind of do that before with Monarch Legacy of Monsters, like in when they do the whole Operation Lucky Dragon earlier in the season, they did that whole shot from Godzilla's back, which was concept art for Godzilla 2014. So it's cool to see them kind of reuse some things that they didn't actually use in the films. So it was just a very cool scene. I know it caught us by off guard because it seemed to be mostly a Godzilla show, but it looks like maybe Kong could be the face of season 2. What's your guys' thoughts about this cameo, and what the hell is Apex doing there, Josh?
Thank you so much for bringing up San Diego Comic-Con, because my first ever Comic-Con was San Diego Comic-Con 2016. Kong Skull Island came out March 10th, 2017. So I was there. I was in Comic-Con July 2016. I'm sorry, I might have said that wrong. So I got to see Tom Hiddleston, Samuel L. Jackson, John Goodman, Brie Larson, Corey Hawkins, and John C. Reilly at the panel. And John Goodman, shout out to him, was talking all this shit about Kong. He's like, yeah, Kong, he's always late on set. He's always in a bad mood. John Goodman
Gave him the biggest trailer, the ego on that guy.
He was a diva the whole time, didn't memorize his lines. And so I got to see this footage that you're talking about, Trey. So this is as somebody who was like, you got to kind of realize that was a first Comic-Con, seeing a panel with that all-star cast, and then Kong was my first. You know, I saw Godzilla 2014, not theatrically. I saw it in home video. But this got me into this universe, Kong Skull Island. So I loved that movie. But I didn't, kind of what you said earlier, Trey, I was not, for some reason, I had said through some of our watch-alongs that I hoped Kong was going to show up and we were going to get some Kong love. But the whole way the trailers were organized, the whole way the series was starting to play out, I kind of lessened that possibility in my mind. So to the point, which I think was crafted by design by the directors and the writers and everything, I wasn't even thinking about that actively. So as somebody who was Team Kong but was really getting more Godzilla and appreciating it, I was expecting just more Godzilla. So when I saw my boy, I was like, "Let's go!
Let's go!"
I think season 2 is awesome, because something that I've noticed these days is that post-COVID, these companies, production companies, they don't want to invest in something or lend their IP to something that's just gonna be cut off at the legs when you're only just starting with season 1, right? They're designed to play out over multiple seasons. Everything that played out in this series is designed, in my opinion, to be fleshed out more so in season 2. And that's why we kind of passed the torch of Shaw, and now we're going to be giving more background to Hiroshi, I think, and other characters. And so for me, this just made me so freaking excited for Godzilla, Kong, the New Empire. The day of this finale dropping, I think I sent it to the Monstars chat, I found Godzilla Kong merch, and I was like, yeah. There's only one Kong merch out, a lot of G-Man, but I'm going to be searching for all the Kong stuff. So I need to
put some respect on Kong's name, right?
I need to see that cast, that pimp cast beat.
What's a king to a god, Corey?
Bro, can you imagine Kong with a pimp cane?
Pimp cane, pimp cast, whatever. He's just gonna be pimping. So what I sent y'all, that GIF, was my arm hair just all standing up on all.
That's awesome. Orc, what was your reaction to the Kong cameo, and what do you think Apex is gonna be doing on Skull Island?
Yeah, I mean, it was a cheap pop, obviously, to get everyone excited, like Corey and Josh. But
Wow.
it actually kind of caught me off guard. Like, I wasn't even thinking about it. You know, I watched it super late last night, and so it was cool, and it makes me excited for the possibilities of season 2. Not, now we have another big name. And I think it's really going to start to tie everything together, which I was wanting to see more of that stuff, of just tying all the movies and now the show together. But yeah, it's really interesting to see like what's going to happen in the future. And, I think back to what I was talking about earlier of just, finding out what happened to Bill, what's her reaction to Kong gonna be, and if it's gonna be a thing of, is she gonna still be Team Godzilla, and is she not gonna like Kong? There's all sorts of different feelings that everyone is gonna have to their respective sides. It's gonna kind of be funny to see possibly what Josh and Corey are Team Kong, and some of us are Team Godzilla. We might get to see that kind of same dynamic happen on the show. So it'll be really interesting to see what kind of different dynamic Kong could possibly add to the show now that he presumably will be a character in the future. But also Godzilla's better, and he'll kick his ass if he needs to. So.
Orc, I'm trying to keep Corey together here. If you keep pushing the bear over the edge, man, he's going to lose it again.
It's not my fault that Corey picked the wrong guy.
I agree, bro.
Nick, y'all need some broccoli, I think.
Yeah, eat your vegetables.
Nick, put the nail in the coffin. Tell Corey why Godzilla's better. I'm just kidding. What was your reaction to Kong cameo, and what is Apex doing on Skull Island?
Well, get your tomatoes ready, gentlemen. Cheap fan service, but it was cool to see Kong show up. Despite all that, somebody in the chat mentioned a newspaper clipping that appeared in King of the Monsters that talked about, someone was claiming Monarch was building a giant robot on Skull Island. And I really think that it's an opportunity to sort of tie like loose ends together, because like I mentioned in the beginning, this show especially is sort of doing whatever the hell they want with the canon and continuity, and it's kind of why I don't want there to be a season 2, because it's just more of a chance for them to screw up the continuity and lore and canon and all that stuff even more. But I think that this can be an opportunity for them to sort of tie things back. Because my biggest question was like, what the hell is Apex doing on Skull Island? You know, like Monarch is supposed to be on Skull Island and all that. And I think it could be a really sort of Easter egg tie-in that person who went to the newspaper and claimed that Monarch was building a mechanized giant on Skull Island could have just been mistaking Apex for Monarch. So it really does leave a lot open for season 2. If they, again, like I said, if they do a season 2, or if they don't do a season 2, all right, whatever, fine. But if they do a season 2, I really hope that they're not as sloppy with the canon of everything. And that's sort of how I felt about this whole scene, you know.
That's fair. I mean, it was definitely some fan service. That I think if they do get the green lit for season 2, I think they'll use that more. Use Kong being in, as Godzilla was kind of the focus. Kong will be the focus of season 2, and it could be a really interesting story, just in terms of maybe seeing the side of, like, we never really saw Kong react to King Ghidorah's Apex call, to be the dominant Titan. So it could be interesting well, actually, do I want to talk about, no, I'll save this because we're season overview. We're going to talk about season 2 predictions. Hold on to that idea, because I think I know where, if they do go that route, what the finale would look like. And the finale would be insane. But there's definitely some inconsistencies.
It's just a mess, dude. That's my biggest issue, and my biggest whatever the opposite of a criticism is. I can't really think of the word right now, but I loved how this show sort of dove into more of the backstory of this world, sort of how Monarch came to be. Like that, the beginning, like that's what it did incredibly in the first half of the season, and then towards the halfway point, and then towards the end, it was sort of like, all right, cool, we're gonna add a bunch of cool stuff and make the lore even more messed up and confusing. So it's the lore and world building is both this show's greatest strength and one of its weaknesses, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. And I think it goes back onto the writers. And I think, Koji, you actually brought this up the other day, of where, like, you and I were thinking, like, oh, it's kind of cool that they give each director 2 episodes, because that's how they handled this season. Each director got 1 and 2, and then it was 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6. Each person kind of got a 2-episode arc to kind of do what they wanted with it, while there was an overarching, obviously, idea and timeline of where they wanted to go to do the storyline. But in a way, maybe having so many hands in the pot, with having different directors, essentially 5, give their own little spin on it, can cause some inconsistencies. What do you think, Koji?
No, I think that's very possible, because a lot of times, like you said, they are shooting this. I think it was Orc or Josh, one of you guys said moments ago, where that they are planning for more seasons. Yeah, it was Josh, I think, that they shoot for more seasons. They have a plan, and I like that, because that's storytelling, because these are episodics. You need something like that. But in the process of that, you do have to get them all done in a certain time frame that you can afford. This is also why I think Shaw shouldn't be in season 2. Show up some other way and some other thing, but not season 2, just so you can cut down the billing, because he is a top billed actor. So if you cut that out of the way, you can put more of that funds to more CGI for more kaiju. So I think that's why it's set up that way, because this is introductory. First seasons, if they plan a 5-season story, then that's a 5 story arc. The first part of the story arc is introduction, and that's the majority of what I got this whole season 1. And number 2 would be rising action. You bring in Kong at the very end, even though I'm Team Godzilla, I'm with you guys, and I love the rest who don't. You bring him in, then you're setting all the players on the board to go forward with the next story. And I think they're investing in that. I want them to invest in that and going forward. And them being on Skull Island with my little theory and also expanding more of the story, that's great. And I think they'll go in that direction. Did I answer the question? What was the question?
No, I think you
That's all I
answered it.
wanted.
We were talking about the Kong cameo and kind of where,
Yeah. So
and also the directors getting their own little visions. And,
oh yeah, that part. Yeah, so things getting jumbled with the directors, because I remember a long time ago as a kid or younger me, whatever, I saw the live action movie of Casper, and I was very pissed off a few times because they mentioned the girl, a lead character or side character, Casper, whatever. They wrote in that she was 9. Then they said later she was 11. Then said she was 9, or was back and forth like that. Weird. I was like, that's odd. But then I found out that because one of the writers went to our high school and she came back for career day and told us how writing goes in some of these movies, that they get like a bunch of talent, like for a movie that they want to push out, they'll get like, let's say 7 writers or whatever the number is. And they give them certain scenes, they tell the overarching story. They're like, okay, write these scenes. All right, cool. And then they give it, and then you have the story written by different people. But if it's rushed, no one's comparing notes, some details will be a little bit lost. Maybe that's why they want AI, to get rid of writers that way. But either way, when they do a project like this, I think it's smart to have like each 2 episodes done by a director or a team. And depending how they're in communication with each other with notes and how fast they need to hit a deadline will determine, in my opinion and experience, that's where little story inconsistencies might happen. But I think it's not a bad thing. It's just, a sign of the whole process and the urgency. Because, we like Godzilla -1, and we're saying, oh, that's what happens when you take your time with the story. But when you're doing a series, you can only do your best because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of episodes, and in a sense, they're like mini movies. So some things will fall through the cracks. But for the most part, it's an well put together, as best as they could, system. Because we're talking Godzilla, Kong, CGI characters. So that's like a whole nother animation department with people filming, with actors. It's a lot that they're putting, and I think they're doing it the best they can, and I think they're succeeding. Maybe not perfectly, but I think that's what they're investing more going forward with season 2 in this whole story. And I did along with MonsterVerse is perfect.
I did see Carrie Kelly's question. Yes, Michael Dougherty, who did Godzilla King of the Monsters, and he has been an executive producer, I think, for Godzilla vs. Kong, but he was also a consulting producer for this, supervisor for this show. So
Which was a mistake.
Oh, you don't like Michael Dougherty?
I have very harsh mixed feelings about him. I think he had way too much creative control for King of the Monsters. Now, when I first saw King of the Monsters back in 2019, I loved it. I thought it was great. The monster scenes were great, and the monster scenes still hold up. But then I watched it again with a more critical lens, and what I really took away from it is, this is what happens when you take a fan fiction and adapt it into a screenplay. That, King of the Monsters needs to be renamed to Godzilla 2.5 hours of Michael Dougherty's fan fiction. Because it has all the traits of a typical online fan fiction. The reuse of popular IPs. You got Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, all that stuff. Cheap name drops and references, like the Oxygen Destroyer. They just dropped the name. Hey, we got an Oxygen Destroyer, and then that's it. It played no other part in the story. And I'm like, I have read enough Godzilla fan fictions in my time to know that is something some teenager would write on a forum somewhere. I'm not trying to shit on fan fictions, for the record. A lot of people do really good ones. There's some great ones out there. I'm just saying, I don't think a fan fiction translates well to a multi-million-dollar movie, and I think that's what happened with Michael Dougherty, because he even says, he's like, I am so excited to direct this. I love Godzilla ever since I was a kid. I always hear the argument of, oh, this franchise is terrible. Why can't they just have fans make it? Well, it's really sort of a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it could turn out really good, but on the other hand, it could also, a fan's personal passion they have trouble getting out of their own way, you know. So like it really is a gamble. Like if you hand a project like this over to a fan, it really is a gamble on whether or not it'll come out good or if it's going to come out bad. And I think with King of the Monsters, it sort of fell somewhere in the middle, but it leaned a little towards like bad because, you know, King of the Monsters, it did have its issues. Great kaiju, actually. Like the kaiju were great. They did what they had to do. But as far as like story and characters goes, it's sort of, I don't know. It just seems like, you know, I'm not sure where to go on, but you get what I'm trying to say?
So now I'm curious. Which, I'll go. Go ahead, now, which is your favorite MonsterVerse movie or, you know?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, I like the MonsterVerse for a plethora of different reasons.
Sure. I know it's might not be your favorite overall, but like,
yeah, I want to say Godzilla 2014 just because of the nostalgia I have for that movie. You know, I was 18 when the movie came out. Like I was a young, excited Godzilla because I lived through like what is known as the Godzilla drought from 2004 to 2014. Like especially you know what I'm talking. Man. You know what I'm talking about. Where there was no MonsterVerse, there was no Toho content. All we had was fake fan trailers that that scene from Always Sunset on 3rd Street 2, Cinemassacre's Godzilla-thon. Like we just had the bare bones. Like it was literally like you're in a dystopia, like a dystopic future in one of those like futuristic cyberpunk movies, and people are just like, there's always that one thing people are longing for. Oh, you got this, and like no. It's really hard to come by. It was like that being a Godzilla fan. Like, hey, you got a new trailer? You got any word on a new movie? Like, what's going on? But so yeah, the nostalgia for 2014 makes me love it a lot. So it's really a mix between 2014 and Godzilla versus Kong. Nice. And for Godzilla versus Kong, because like that's just something that fans have wanted forever, and you know we finally got it, and that even had like a sort of a feeling of being a Godzilla fan before Godzilla 2014 in of itself, because you know like we had it was delayed because of COVID. Like we were in the dark on like the production of it. Like you know, much like the Great Godzilla drought, like no one really knew what was like the status on a new Godzilla. And like with Godzilla versus Kong being affected by COVID and the pandemic, it was sort of the same thing. You know, everyone was just trying to find out like, hey, you have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? And then it finally dropped, like news finally dropped in January. And then we finally got the trailer. And for like the 4 months up until it came out in March. Yeah. Like the 3 months leading up until it came out, it was such an exciting time, especially as speaking from a content creator's perspective, it was just so much fun, like being on the internet in the Godzilla community, the hype for the movie. And regardless of whether or not people thought, oh, it's going to be trash or it's going to be mid or whatever, but I'm still excited for it. Like that seemed to be the sentiment of a lot of people. And when it finally came out, it was sort of like, oh my God, it was like going to see 2014 for the first time. It's like, it feels like I've been waiting forever for this movie. So yeah. So to answer your question, I know that was a really long-winded answer, but to answer your question, favorite MonsterVerse installments were definitely both 2014 and Godzilla versus Kong. Mainly because Kong, of like, right? What?
And you're rooting for Kong, right?
No, yeah, bro, all the way. I bought I went to Party City, bought a gorilla mask and everything. Hey, if you look on my Instagram profile, it says Instagram community leader of Team Godzilla. I don't know if you guys were familiar, but there was me and a couple other guys on Instagram. We put together what we called the Great Kaiju Fan War. It was like Team Kong versus Team Godzilla, and it was all like who could get the most team members. And you know, Godzilla won, obviously. It was a tough war. You know, I still wake up with the nightmares. I got my Purple Heart and everything. No, but yeah,
oh man.
How many cats do you own?
I did a couple tours, a couple tours in the comment section. It really molds boys into men,
Oh,
Still waiting on that government veterans settlement check, but I understand.
It's
It'll get
hilarious.
but yeah, no. But yeah, to answer your question,
Nice.
yeah, Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla versus Kong, because the nostalgia I have for them, just like, and plus I think they were good movies. They have, not without their flaws, of course, but overall I really enjoyed them.
Yeah,
I like it, man. I dig it.
And it's great. And see, this is the wonderful part about like different opinions of everyone on the panel, because I know Josh is a big fan of Godzilla versus Kong, which that was my least favorite of the MonsterVerse. And I think Koj, you loved 2014 the most, right?
Yeah.
Corey, I'm guessing you're Kong Skull Island.
I did like Kong Skull Island a lot. Yeah, Kong Skull Island's up there for me, and then I did like Godzilla vs. Kong quite a bit because of our banter back and forth. Trey.
Yeah, Corey would like that just for that fact. And then Cody.
He's a King of the Monster guy.
King of the Monsters, yeah, is what I was going to say. Yeah,
But
King of
I
the
will
Monsters
say-
was my favorite.
I will say, in reality, I know I shit on Godzilla or King Kong a lot. Skull Island is a very visually impressive movie. I still think about that first shot of the sun behind King Kong. They really made him look good in that movie. That movie is a really fun one to watch.
Plus, it has Samuel motherfucking Jackson.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm
Hold on to your butt.
huge Sean Goodman fan, so
KSI was so good, man. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, I love Godzilla and Kong equally at the end of the day. So I'm glad. No, I just want to for the record, I do like both. Godzilla a little bit more because it's really what I grew up on when it came to giant monster movies. But I respect the hell out of Kong. One of the most iconic names in cinema history, and he's just he's a badass.
That's funny, Nick, because I've always liked Kong because I've just been Kong fan, but Trey has always been Godzilla fan, so it's always Kong first. And now with all really the MonsterVerse, and more specifically Godzilla -1, flip a switch, and now like I am a Godzilla fan, Team Godzilla, but slight edge to Team Kong because we got to keep up with that brotherly rivalry.
Right, and I just want to say one more thing, and then we can move on. To put it, I was on the Godzilla versus Kong panel at G-Fest 2022, and you guys know the artist Bob Eagleton?
Yes.
He did I think Godzilla in Hell. I think he was he contributed to that.
Yep.
He was on that panel with me, and I'm pretty sure, I think it was him. I could be wrong, but he said a lot of people, even if you were Team Godzilla, you definitely walked out of Godzilla versus Kong a bigger Kong fan, and which is true. I mean, I like going into the movie, even though I'm Team Godzilla, I liked Kong enough as it was, but leaving theater, I'm like, I really like how they did Kong in that movie.
Yeah,
I can see why people would choose him over Godzilla.
Interesting. I love this. I love this panel. Man, this is good. It's been a fun freaking show. A quick addressment of the amazing webhead here with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it. For season 2, I hope Ren Sarazawa should appear and expand on his dynamic with his dad to show his jealousy to Godzilla, which leads him to work for Apex. Yeah, we'll talk about that next stream. Absolutely. That's yeah. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat, the amazing webhead. I really do appreciate your support. Corey, can you play the amazing webhead a little something to say thank you?
I was still into it. Oh, Josh had my back.
But yeah, man, a very cool, crazy cameo. A little fan service going on there. that caught all of us off guard with Kong showing up. And that's where they leave us on season 1. So definitely, if it did end there, I would be a little bit heartbroken just because I need answers about Shaw personally. And I don't want to leave my boy Shaw in, Axis Mundi or wherever he's at. I think if they're better about consistencies, especially throughout the entire season, and really focus on some of the things, I think this was a good test run to look at, and kind of see what worked, what didn't work, what did the fans really respond to, and how do we move on from here to go into season 2. There's a lot of fillers that, and I don't mean fillers in a boring, annoying way, but like fillers as in to really explain what goes on with Monarch, with Apex between 2017 and 2019 with King of the Monsters, how Kong reacts with King Ghidorah, and obviously leading us in between. I mean, because really they gave us, it was 5 years break between each movie, essentially. 5 years between Godzilla 2014, Godzilla King of the Monsters, 5 years with Godzilla versus Kong. And it sounds like, I think, another 5 years with Godzilla Kong the New Empire. So they're doing it in increments of 5. So there's a lot of time to fill in some of the gaps or some of the questions that we've had to improve the movies. And hopefully not ruin the movies. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes from there. But guys, as we come to wrap up the show today, I have to ask you, what would you rate this episode?
For me, I'm glad you asked, Trey, because no surprise, I've been kind of honestly holding back some of my scores, not actively in my mind, I think subconsciously, because like I talked about, I talked at one point during the season, I think early on, because when we saw, I think episode 3, when we saw Lucky Dragon with Godzilla, I was like, oh yeah, but then I was like, where's my boy Kong, And then at some point I kind of like was starting to appreciate Godzilla more, and like everyone said, I respect them both. Little bit more Team Kong, but for me, yeah, I can't lie, 10s across the board for me.
Oh wow, okay, he's going the perfect score. Damn, Josh.
I got Nico, I got Kong. 10s.
You did. You even got Emiko being a badass, telling Hiroshi off. Wow, 10. Okay, woof, man. I always feel like when I do these shows with you guys, you're like throwing off my score a bit. Orc, what would you score it?
If the episode had ended 30 seconds sooner, it'd be a 10.
Savage, holy shit.
I'm done messing with you guys. No, honestly, for me, I think the only complaint I really had is I wish the fight would have been a little bit longer. I know the show and the episode has had its flaws. But I'm just so excited for what could happen next. The future. I'm excited for all Godzilla fans, all King Kong fans. I think these are great strides to just us getting more content of our favorite Titans. And so for me, I'd give it a really nice, solid 9.7.
9.7. Damn. Okay.
Yeah, so you're in trouble now.
I am in trouble. You guys.
I think Nick may bring us back down to earth.
Nick might like bring us.
All right, guys. Voice of reason coming in.
Minus 1.
No,
bring us to reality. I'm just kidding.
I think I'd give this episode a solid 8 out of 10. But I really don't think that's hard to do, like a hard rating to get, especially with how they did it. This show really did canyon. I like to use the term. It's like, it started off really good. Towards the middle, it dragged, and then by the end, it went back up. It was great. Nice little Kong cameo, as shoehorned in as it may be, but I digress. Definitely left us left a lot open for season 2 and left a lot of potential. And I know I said it a million times, but I'm going to say it again. If they are going to be smart about the consistencies and continuities and not just have a free-for-all with it, then yes, go for a season 2. But if they're going to do what they did with this, where it's just add a million other crazy things to the world building to make it even more confusing, then I really wouldn't be upset if some of the questions I have go unanswered. I think I'd be okay filling in headcanon for this. But it was a good episode, 8 out of 10. The actors did really well. The characters were written well. Even the ones like Kentaro and Kate and May, they weren't insufferable. I really like the direction, and of course the fight scene. Of course, it's always good to see the Big G kick some ass, and especially I love how everybody's just like shitting on the Ion Dragon and just pretty much calling him the MonsterVerse equivalent of the giant condor from Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, I believe. I've seen a couple people on social media saying like this guy he's got the intimidation of the giant condor from Godzilla versus the Sea Monster.
Oh my god, I love it. Koj, what would you score, buddy?
I'll give it a 9. I want to
Solid
do
9, rookie
something,
score.
but I can't figure out the number. The highest probably 9.7, lowest 9.2. But yeah, definitely solid 9. I liked it a lot. I just felt like there needs to be a little bit more of when they saw Hiroshi, especially with Kate. Because I felt that was, I don't know, just tiny nitpick stuff to just tweak it a little bit. Maybe 30 seconds of some emotional exchange, and Kong showed up, so the score had to drop a little bit. No, I'm just playing. No, this is great. I love it. So 9.7. Let's do 9.6 from me.
Oh, okay. So you went from 9 to 9.6 now?
Yeah, because I don't want to do 9.7.
He felt bad because he called it a rookie score trade. Great goal.
I'm sorry.
I just feel bad for Kong.
Okay, just be specific. I'm just kidding. Super Bro, what would you give it?
Bro, so I'm gonna say it again because I score TV shows differently than I score movies and such like that. This score that I'm gonna give it is specifically for the episode and the episode alone, not necessarily the overall season score. So this is just episode 10, Corey season score. Now, I loved it. I loved all the Shaw that we can get. Shaw's my favorite character, and we got Shaw all the way. We got the amazing reunion of him and Kay, and that was just absolutely beautiful. We saw everybody kind of working together. Like Nick said, some of the post G-Day casts weren't annoying, which was awesome. Everything was very heartfelt, touching moments. I'm your granddaughter. It was just beautiful moments all throughout being on being there. Then what do we get? We get what we've been asking for this entire freaking season. Godzilla showing up, ready to kick some butt. Not yet. We'll get there. We got Godzilla kicking some major ass. I love it when he's walking through. That was beautiful. We got that. I knew somebody wasn't going to come back, but we got Kay. We got Kay back to see Hiroshi. That interaction was absolutely beautiful. It had me in tears as well, man. Like there was numerous scenes that I was like, man, this is beautiful. Love that Godzilla scene. And then finally, what me and my boy King Donkey Kong, what we've been waiting for, and my boy Josh was our boy Kong showing up, big fella. I loved seeing that there. I don't necessarily mind the fact that there may be some issues continuity wise right now. only specifically because I think they can explain this a little bit more. As we heard Tim specifically say, or May asked Tim, "Hey, you're working for Apex now?" And Tim was like, "Yeah, it's complicated." So ultimately, Tim knows all the ins and outs of Monarch. I think that he may be helping Apex secretly kind of set up unknown to Monarch. Apex is kind of going in that back door right now. So they have Hiroshi as advisors and Pimp Tim as advisors. So it's not too crazy because, once again, when I look back, they're focused on what's coming up, all this activity going on. And they weren't even worried about 3 people, so they're not seeing what's going around in the background. They're too closed-minded or narrow-sighted, is what I'm trying to say. That said, everything worked perfectly for me. This episode gets a 10. Yep.
What the hell is happening here? Like, good God! Like,
me up.
I can't wait to
not give 10s
the
like
chat scores too.
right? I know. It's like, Corey, I feel
how you guys give 10s so
you
like
just let you have your moment. It's just weird to me that Corey's the last like few scores. In fact, I think for the most part, this entire show, you have, except for a couple of episodes, you've had more scores than me.
But
I mean, higher score.
It makes sense, right? It makes sense. You are more knowledgeable about Godzilla and everything like that. I'm fairly a newer fan when it comes to Godzilla and everything like that. So for me, I'm that's what I've seen out in the the world as well. People who are maybe don't know the ins and outs of Godzilla, Monarch, and Apex, and all the different things.
Yeah,
they're not necessarily bothered by some continuity stuff because we didn't necessarily notice it.
That's fair.
Not deep of a fan yet, maybe 10, 20 years from now, I'm gonna be like, this is bullshit,
Yeah, your opinion's allowed to change. I mean, I mean, you guys heard it when I was talking about King of the Monsters. When I first saw King of the Monsters, I thought it was pretty good. But then, like, you watch these movies over and over again, and your opinion changes. I mean, hell, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, 5 years down the line, I rewatch King of the Monsters, and I'll be like, oh, it's actually, you know what? It's actually kind of good. I mean, that's also probably just a factor of my fucking ADHD riddled brain at work. But it really is like a really good characteristic of this fandom, because I talk to a lot of people, and I always say I have an ever-changing list of top 10 Godzilla movies. And it really all depends on what mood I'm feeling, and the more people I talk to, the more people I find are the same way, because we like these movies for different reasons. And, your opinions can change over time. Your interests shift, like your standards for quality shifts. Like my standards for Godzilla, like I can safely say my standards for Godzilla when I was 10 years old have changed now that I'm like 27. So like that there's, no reason why they won't change when I'm fucking 47 or 57.
Yeah. Like, that's some good points. You guys are bringing up all these like interesting things. I'm not going to explain as crazy as Corey did. I think it's the best episode of the season. Yeah. And for that simple reason, based off my last highest score that I gave, I don't think it was a you know me, once I hit 9.5, that I consider that a masterpiece. I agree there's some flaws. It was mostly on Hiroshi, which was surprising because Hiroshi was one of the most interesting parts to me in this show that they just didn't quite seal the deal on. But to give it the best score of the season, I have to give it a 9.45. I have to give it a little extra than the last episode that I gave a 9.4, I think. So
you could just say what you're going to do. You're going to adjust all the scores.
I can tell you now, knowing the full season arc, there's some episodes when we do our season overview, there's some episodes that are going to drop significantly and others that are going to up. And it's simply going to be the idea because these episodes were fillers that really didn't add anything to the story and was unnecessary. So I could have done maybe 7 episodes this season rather than 10. But I feel like every show has that. Every show has those filler episodes that are like, what was the point of that other than we had to hit a quota of 10 episodes?
I'm telling you, man, it's just like that. this show, what I meant to say when I gave my rating is like the bar was set extremely low for these final episodes, because this show started off really strong, so just fell the mid season, and then episode 9 and 10 knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
And I think, expectations too of what you're coming into a show like this. Like when I first saw the name of the show, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, I had that feeling it was going to be like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. type thing, where we might get a little poke of Godzilla, or we might get a little kaiju action here and there, but it was mainly going to be other things going on, specifically with Monarch and the legacy of Monarch. So I had a feeling it was going to be a little bit more people driven versus the emphasis on the monster portion as well.
Corey, what's the chat saying for their score? What's the average going on?
I do have to say I do like your score, because I feel like your score kind of averaged out this entire panel score, so it was still very well scored. But kind of looking at
9.6, what a fucking nightmare,
right?
Oh my
Gary
god.
Kelly gave it a 9.3. 9 Lives in Hell here gave it a 9.6. Javon Scruggs gave it he said he'll rate it a C. 9.1 from Joker's Wild. 9.1 for me for the Batman Who Laughs, a 9.4 from Butler, 9.2 from Gianmarco Zampella, 9.6 from Beyond the Night, 9 from TJ, 9.5 from Red Hooded Outlaw, 9 from Iffy. Orko's Clock Tower gave it a 9.8 because of Keiko.
Yeah, her performance.
9.3 for the Godzilla fight from Kaiju Crazy Craig Rowland, 9.5 from Trevor H. Wayne Enterprises 8.8. 8.7 from Red Robin, 9.6 from Classified Monarch Eyes Only. We have 9.5 from Atomic Kaiju 1954, Akio Lee. 8.9 from Bat Fanatic. 9.9999999 across the board for hashtag Restore the Snyderverse guy.
Good God.
Is there any more that I miss? Oh, yep. Okay, perfect. This one. Con Hater. And then he gives us for that, I'm giving it a 10 for Con.
Can I pitch something?
My goodness, too gracious, guys. Come on.
Let me pitch something here.
Okay.
I've been giving Kong fans a lot of hate today, because obviously I'm right, Godzilla's best. But also, chat has also been going back and forth between Team Godzilla and Team Kong. So let's put it to the test. Let's see who can show the most support.
Oh man, we lost him.
Sorry.
That's a cheap shot right there. Come on, man.
Make me full screen. Corey, make me full screen.
Come on, Corey.
Make me full screen.
No, okay, I'll make you full screen for that, buddy. Only because you're my cousin.
Let's have everybody, Team Kong, Team Godzilla, chat. Let me see if you want to do this.
Make a poll.
No,
hold on. Just
I
let me
got
log
an
into
idea.
my 3 different YouTube accounts so I can.
Let's do a watch party. King Kong versus Godzilla, 1962.
Yes.
Yes. We'll do a watch party. Corey's Kong. We'll get Josh in here for some Kong support, but we'll see whose team can bring the most fan support. And Corey gets a little bit of a history lesson with King Kong versus Godzilla 1962. Let's do a watch party and let's see who can bring the most fans,
It's
Godzilla or Kong.
Well, now we got a great kaiju war all over again.
Yeah. I'm a little worried. Nick's here right
boys.
Now. Yeah.
And all right, so if we do this, well, I'll give it a cut. Like I'll give it a month date, maybe as we're leading into Godzilla Kong: The New Empire.
Right,
so
right
sometime
before
in
the
March.
movie comes out, let's do a watch party.
Okay.
1962, King Kong versus Godzilla.
Koj and Orc, you guys really need to promote this as like a wrestling event, like the match of the year. You know,
got it, man.
Yeah,
it's usually 2 commentators.
Yeah.
Going
I
into this
think we have
event
to
live
be
right
back
here.
as well, buddy.
Fuck off! He's pulled out the electricity powers. Fuck off!
Where'd that come from? Foul play.
RKO out of nowhere.
Oh my God, Orc, what have you done? I love it. I love the idea. Yeah, that'll probably happen. That would be fun.
I'm already
for
there.
sure. So
got my ticket.
I like it. So that's going to be happening sometime in the future. A Kong versus Godzilla watch party. Who's going to win, Team Kong or Team Godzilla, as we gear up for Godzilla Kong: The New Empire? But guys, wonderful. Absolutely love the chat today. You guys have been on fire. And thanks for hanging out with us for this Monarch Legacy of Monsters episode 10 breakdown. As always, I like to roll up the red carpet real quick for all the people on the panel to say thank you for joining us. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Let's start with Josh. What do you got coming up, big fella? You had a wonderful interview just recently. That was so good, man.
I just wanted to thank you, Trey. I think you saw my comment. I did on my last YouTube. I don't consider myself a YouTuber, say it all the time, and then hypocritically end up doing YouTube shows. I don't know. Don't judge me too harshly. But I interviewed, did a spoiler review on Rebel Moon from Zack Snyder, and I had one of the actors, Brett Colbert, who plays the commander of the King's Gaze, the Dreadnought. And it was a wonderful time, and I really do honestly attribute the encouragement to do that stream thanks to you, Trey, thanks to you, Corey, thanks to all of the Monarch Monstars and everyone here in the chat who really just has been supportive of a fan coming and sharing their thoughts on something. And thank you guys for having a platform that I've kind of tried to model myself after, because all you guys show up in the chat. You have so much passion. You love this IP, and it really does show. You know, you may not like everything about it or what the show's doing, but you showed up, you pressed play, and you engaged with Apple TV Plus. So thank you guys for encouraging me to do that. It's on my channel. And one thing real quick, I just wanted to plug. I picked up on 1, 2, and 3.
Beautiful.
Godzilla. So I have 2 Godzilla and 1 Kong, but I also wanted to unbox while on the stream. I don't know if you know about these, Trey. Do you know about these?
I actually have them. Yep. You know it, bro. I immediately told my guys at Hall of Justice, put that in my pool.
So I didn't know they are connecting covers. So I ordered, this is the Godzilla. I think it's fitting. When Kong gets here, I will show that. But here we go. Listen close.
Oh,
So cool.
How long does that battery life last? Because I have the steelbook of Godzilla 2014. You know,
Dude, me
you press
too.
the button that it roars, and it has not roared in like 5 years.
Same, dude. Yeah, I think I killed
outroared.
mine in 2014 in the first month. I was like, yeah. Or no,
It was on its.
button.
I mean, 5, hell, maybe even 6, 7 years. Like that case is just a steelbook fidget toy at this point with a button that does
That's
nothing.
awesome.
That's
Josh, that's
epic.
awesome, dude. And I do want to mention, Josh, you did a fantastic job interviewing him. You were very calm, collected. I was watching at work while you were doing it. What was it, last Sunday? And you just did a fantastic job. Just totally professional. Great interview altogether, my friend. I don't know if I had a chance to comment that or tell you yet. So yeah, I wanted to just share that. It was fantastic. You definitely made him feel like he was at home right away. So he definitely opened up to you, which was beautiful, man.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Congrats on that. If you haven't seen that interview, please go check it out on the Replay crew, because it's fantastic. And just what a cool dude in general. So thank you, Josh, for that so much. And thanks for showing up throughout Monarch Legacy of Monsters, all the watch parties and breakdowns that we've done. Boy, Orchid Baines! Dude, it's so good. I've missed you. Missed you.
Yes, definitely. I
haven't missed you.
A liar, you called me the other day and asked me. About
You're
it.
right.
I'm still over at Twitch. I know I haven't been streaming a ton. The last few months have been crazy. I think the next couple months will also be crazy. So I'm hoping to at some point get to more of a more consistent streaming stuff. I'm definitely going to try my best as much as I can to try to hang out with these guys. And I got a couple of ideas already cooking about this watch party and some ways that we can promote it and stuff like that. So look out for some stuff like that to try to promote this watch party. And then I can't wait to be part of more Godzilla content and talking to these guys about it.
My man, you're the best, Orc. It's always good to see you guys. You know what to do. Follow our boy Orc and Beans on Twitch. The Orc Horde, they coming back. The King has returned. It's gonna be rocking it over on Twitch. Do it, just do it.
Almost at 80 followers over there. We're at 79
Nice,
right now.
My man, guys, help me get to 100. Let's not waste time. Let's go.
Signing up for a Twitch.
I see your comment, by the way, TJ, and I don't want to talk about it.
That must hurt, Super Bro. It must hurt, but it's true. My man Nick, Kaiju Junkie. First off, thank you so much, dude, for being on this panel with us for the first time.
Of course, man. This was
One
fun.
of the cool things is just like bringing people together on a community, and the fact that you were just like we just knew each other off of Instagram and like really enjoyed each other's posts, but like to jump on a stream with strangers and like it just feels like home, my man. So it's just a testament of just how cool you are, and appreciate having you here, man. Tell the chat a little bit about what you got going on in the futures and where they can follow you.
Wait a second, Kaiju Junkie hasn't been here the entire time. It felt natural, bro. It was fun having you, man.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, I feel like, like I said, I've got like a ADHD riddled brain, so I'm always overthinking things. So I'm glad I did better than I thought I did. Thanks again for having me on. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Kaiju Junkie. I'm also under that name on YouTube and Twitter, but I'm most active on Instagram. Definitely got a lot more content coming. Really excited this year for what I've got going on with Kaiju United. I know I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, the panel, that I'm just a mere contributor, but I actually was brought on as a staffer. My title has changed. I'm now a senior editor over there, and I'm going to be doing a lot of cool stuff with them. We got a lot of cool stuff planned. So I'm really excited for that. That's going on this year. It's going to be a really, really, really big year for the site. And it's really all thanks to Jacob, Jacob Lingle. Follow him at Linglegon, if you feel so inclined. Just the stuff we got planned is awesome. We have some stuff planned with conventions. I actually am trying to get this done. We with Unite Godzilla Fans, if anybody knows him on Instagram. Since him and I live fairly close, we're going to be doing a kaiju film location tour in New York City. We've been trying to get that done, but for anybody who lives in the tri-state area, you know that we've just been at Poseidon's wrath every single weekend. Has just been like rain and coastal flood. Like we had bad coastal flooding earlier this week, and it's just freezing. So that may get pushed back to the spring, but it is in the works. It's a project that I'm really, really excited for. It's something that I wanted to do for a very long time. So yeah, just be on the lookout for that and all the cool stuff we got going on at Kaiju United and the stuff I got going on too. I'm having a lot of fun being a content creator with Godzilla these days. Especially ever since like G-Fest 2023, I found like a new spark to just like create again, and it's really easy with all the new stuff we got going on. Monarch, GXK, and fucking Godzilla -1. Big shout out to Godzilla -1. I saw a massive follower count. I cashed in on that hype, and it was just so incredible, man. It felt so good. Like if anybody is like on the ropes about starting their own little kaiju page, just do it, man. Now's the time. Like it's easy money, for lack of better words, now to be a kaiju content creator. But again, guys, thank you guys so much for coming, for having me on. It was great coming here. I love doing these things.
Oh, thank you, man. It's been an absolute blast, and I can't thank you enough for hanging out with us and being a part of our community as well. And just like you said, dude, the Godzilla community has been insane lately, and we did a live stream, for Godzilla Day, and just talking about like what a crazy time to be a Godzilla fan. There's so much. There's Netflix shows and movies. There's with the Skull Island that they did. There was Gamera and Ultraman coming out, and then you even had Godzilla -1 coming out, and all the hype and all the cool little short films they did with Toho on Godzilla Day, and now leading up into Godzilla Kong: The New Empire. It's just like.
Plus, we also got a that new anime, Kaiju #8, that's coming out on Netflix in April. I'm looking forward to that. That looks really cool.
Yeah, and even what was it? Trolls that did incredibly well on Netflix. That people were. I happened to watch that because of the hype around it, and it's a great time to be a kaiju fan, just in general. So, thank you so much, Nick, for being here, man. I really appreciate you, and just what a blast. Hope to see you again soon. And guys, please give him a follow on Instagram. He's doing so much fun stuff, so many posts. I have trouble even keeping up with him sometimes. I'm like liking each post, going like, "Damn, where does the guy have the time?"
It's not easy. Like, I don't sleep much, so it's either lay in bed awake or make some content. I find the time, and yeah, thanks for the shout out. And everybody, I want everybody to listening right now to go tell a friend about the Bat Channel. I just love what you're doing, man. I love the presentation of your channel. Like the thumbnails are great. It's consistent. Like the production value you have with these panels is incredible. And shout out Corey. I know you're the driving force behind that. But
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate some recognition for that.
Of course, man. It's all love. It's all love. My rule of thumb is if I see somebody doing shit like creative shit in the community that I think is awesome, I'm gonna do my best to shout them out as much as I can. That's why I always shout out like Kaiju United, just the stuff. Like nice. Jacob and I, we met at G Fest, and like when I saw what he was doing, I'm like, I love this. How do I be like? Can I be a part of this? How do I be a part of this? Like, this is just so cool.
All because of it's fantastic, and Trey does an awesome job with the content on the Bat Channel. Like I'm only here because of him. So mainly because I'm his brother and he forced me to come along. So
I always have to say every day that Superman's the bet. No, they can't even say.
I'm gonna make you say
it's the only way you can get him. And then Corey, but now I have to bring you back down because Nick gave you too much credit there, and I gotta put you back in your place. Like, Godzilla whooped up Superman. Godzilla whooped up King. I'm just kidding.
No big heads around here. Like a lot of I always have to remind myself that listen, I am by no means famous or anything. Like I've been told by a couple of people oh, it's so cool to hang out with you. You got so many followers. You're famous, and I'm like, no, I'm really not. I'm just some guy who runs a kaiju content curation page. I'm not like Leo DiCaprio or anything. I try to claim no fame. It's
and I think that's the cool part, right? Is we just kind of it just becomes more of a community and a family rather than fame. And I think it's just us sharing passions and hobbies and stuff like that, which is how we met our freaking boy Koj. My man, you have been doing some really cool watch parties on your show too. That go ahead and tell people, man. I've been having a great time over on your show.
Mondays, every Monday, 8 p.m. No, that's even the wrong time. Oh, Mountain Time. But yeah, every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're having a watch party of Super Sentai, the original Power Rangers, like Kaiju. That's part of it too. And you all can watch it. I have all the links in the video description and the video how to watch it, so no excuses. And you can watch along with us for free. Just click the links and have a good time. The rest of the stuff on my channel is video game related, my thoughts and opinion related. It's really like an expression of my own journal in ways. If you watch everything, I don't know how anyone could. But if you do, I got a lot of stuff there. Channel is mostly me and fun and a bunch of geek stuff I'm trying to do with video games and content. So if you want to see more of what I do, come through. I love you. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me here all the time. Seriously, I forgot even how we connected, but I feel like I've known you guys for years.
Right? Oh, God. It probably has been years now. I don't know.
Content making and everything waves over. And this is my first time I'm with Josh, too, also.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, I've been seeing him. I was like, oh, I missed it, man. We could. And then you can't make us watch it. I was like, oh, now is
people
the time.
Together,
Nobody saw you at the Full Circle event.
Oh yes. Yeah,
as Wonder Woman and Batman, Superman.
Yeah,
I was like, this guy is passionate.
Josh is representing noise.
I'm glad to know it is good people.
Well, guys, seriously, once again, if you haven't followed our boy Koj, you need to. The Super Sentai watch parties are great. The Snyder Cut Fighters, I love the whole streams that he does with his gaming channel. You just know what to do. Follow everyone on this community. We support each other. And that's what's beautiful, whether it's Godzilla, Batman, DC, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, all the cool things that we're passionate about on this channel. We support all of you guys, and I can't thank you enough for hanging out with us all 10 episodes of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. This Wednesday in the evening, we will be doing our Season 1 overview where Corey are going to talk about our changes in scores throughout each episode and whether some improved, some got worse, or maybe nothing at all. But we'll also be talking our major Season 2 predictions, what we hope to see, where we think they need to focus a little more on, and maybe what they need to drop and never do again. So we're going to be talking about all that, hopefully with some new faces that you haven't seen before as well in the Godzilla community, to really just break down the entire season and to really say, was it worth it? Was it worth the 10 episodes? So make sure you set your reminders for that Wednesday night. And other than that, guys, be good, be kind to each other. Remember to hit that like, share this video, subscribe, replay crew, hit the comments, let us know what's your thoughts throughout. We'd love to respond to you guys as you go through, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Trey, with Super Bro Corey and our Monarch Monstars panel. And we love you guys. Be good. Don't forget to tune in weekly.
Same bat time,
same bat channel. And now, guys, a special message from our sponsors, the TPP, reminding you to be safe in the world of Titans. Be good, guys. See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Hit it one more time, Josh.
That's the stuff.
And now a special message brought to you by the Titan Preparedness Plan.
With the recent spike in Titan sightings circulating on social media, proactive preparation for a Titan emergence event is crucial. A single towering force of nature has the potential to forever alter the lives of millions. It is our mission to help you prepare for that force. The Titan Preparedness Plan is your guide to staying safe in the face of monsters. These are the 3 steps you need to know. 1. Know before you go. Identify the location of your nearest Titan shelter and practice navigating a Titan evacuation route with your family on a weekly basis. 2. Run and take cover. In the case of a Titan emergence, calmly sprint to the nearest Titan shelter. If your designated shelter is inaccessible or at capacity, seek the basement or lowest floor of a nearby building. 3. Stay informed. Follow any further instruction from local authorities and stay informed using your mobile device, television, or radio. We can't stop a Titan emergence, but we can safeguard our lives. Join us in building a safer, more resilient community. We are here to protect you.